Chapter 1362, returned as a king too. If it wasn't because of her, Nangong Luoyun wouldn't get hurt time and time again. It was all her fault for not being good. She loved to get into trouble, loves to stir up trouble, finally implicating him to be injured more and more seriously every time. The more Su Luo thought about it, the guiltier she felt. The more she thought, the more she felt like a bastard. She lifted her hand and slapped towards her own head gloomily. However, before her hand touched her forehead, it was stopped by a strong and slender arm. Nangong Luoyun's fingers were like snowy jade, covered with a sparkling and transparent luster, extremely beautiful. Su Luo lowered her head and just so happened to meet Nangong Luoyun's gaze. Nangong Luoyun's black as drops of ink eyes were deep like the sea. This pair of eyes that usually looked scornfully at the world now appeared to reflect the warm and gentle sunlight. His eyes held a smile, as if spoiling a child, smiling for her to see. "What are you looking at?" Su Luo snorted in annoyance. Just that split second ago, that sour feeling she was mulling over, all evaporated immediately. Su Luo couldn't help but glare at him in annoyance. Nangong Luoyun, calm and composed, glanced at her, the corner of his rosy lips opening slightly. "What? Can't think out of a depression and want to commit suicide? Who can't think out of depression? Who are you talking about?" Su Luo wouldn't admit to it even if she was to die. Nangong Luoyun saw this appearance of Su Luo's and lightly laughed. He sat up, his slender and powerful arm reached out and pulled Su Luo into his embrace. Su Luo leaned against his broad chest, smelling the sweet fragrance that came only from his body. Her mind calmed down completely. Nangong Luoyun patted her back rhythmically. The movement was as if trying to put a child to sleep. He smiled lightly. "Luo Luo, what you did is very right, very amazing." "Huh." His embrace was so warm, so fragrant, as motionless and strong as a towering mountain, giving people a powerful sense of security. Su Luo felt the desire to sleep gradually approaching towards her. "Luo Luo, as long as you want to do something, then just go do it. Don't need to consider other things, and also don't need to look back. As long as you like it, then just go and do it." Nangong Luoyun looked over Su Luo's shoulders at the careful white clouds in the azure sky. His eyes were half narrowed, as if making an oath, and he muttered to himself, "Because my motivation to become strong is just to protect you ah." Su Luo's sleepiness bubbled up, so her consciousness was somewhat muddled and only gave a soft yes in agreement. In fact, she really didn't take note of what Nangong Luoyun had said. Nangong Luoyun softly patted her back, coaxing her into sleep, seeing her cute rosy lips turning into a pout. Nangong Luoyun couldn't help but laugh in spite of himself. His Luo girl was still a child ah. He continuously made himself stronger just because he wanted to indulge her to do whatever she pleased without restraint, to go do the things she liked to do. If she was to stay at home, obediently embroidering and playing instruments, then what's the point of him getting stronger? Therefore, Luo girl, no need to feel guilty, and you also don't need to feel sad. Let go and do the things you think are right. I will always be your strong backer. This life, having found a woman who made him perfectly happy to give up everything for, a woman he would be willing to sacrifice his life for without hesitation. How is this not a kind of happiness? Nangong Luoyun's arms tightened, pulling Su Luo firmly into his embrace. And the Su Luo at this moment was sleeping soundly, and even snored lightly. Nangong Luoyun, seeing this, couldn't help but laugh involuntarily. Dragon-scaled horse ran very fast, speeding along the whole journey. However, this continent was simply too big. Eastern Ling Empire's domain was overwhelming to people. Based on the dragon-scaled horse's speed, within a month, to run one circle around Eastern Ling was still unlikely. The dragon-scaled horse's speed was as if it was flying, galloping for close to half a month, and finally arrived at the foot of Cloud Mist Peak. Chapter 1363. Returned as a king 3. Su Luo had already thought it through. She wasn't the kind that would stay idle. If Third Princess was to stay by her side, she definitely wouldn't have time to cultivate properly. As a result, Su Luo thought about it and finally decided to drop her off at her master's. With Master teaching her, it was guaranteed that Xianyuan Rong's strength would very quickly improve by leaps and bounds. After reaching the top of Cloud Mist Peak, Su Luo received news that gave her a heavy blow. Master wasn't on Cloud Mist Peak, but had returned to the original location to go plunder for treasure with those several elder ancestors. Little junior sister, it really is unfortunate. Back then, after you guys left, Master followed and left soon after. He didn't even stop to rest for a moment. Zran's face had an apologetic expression, but after that, he immediately returned to his senses. Little junior sister, is your illness cured? You guys really broke through all levels in the 9 different palace hall? Su Luo's eyes bent into a half moon and held a smile. Done without a hitch, finally came back to life. Zran's eyes were filled with excitement. Really is very good. If Master knew, he would definitely be very happy. The always calm senior brother Zran's tone carried a hint of pride. Zran saw Nangong Luyan, who was standing on the side unperturbed, and somewhat rejoiced secretly in his heart. He remembered when Nangong Luyan carried Su Luo, who was on the verge of death. He looked like a fiend, as if see a person, kill a person, see a Buddha, kill Buddha style of killing, so bloodthirsty and decisive in appearance. Aside from Master, no one else had ever made him feel such awe before. If little junior sister wasn't cured, Zran trembled from the bottom of his heart. He didn't dare to even imagine the consequences of such a thing. After we left, Master also immediately left? Su Luo's brows wrinkled. Yes, he immediately left, as if in a great hurry. Zran reported according to the facts. Looks like at that time, Master must have had an urgent matter. Su Luo's tone carried a hint of apology. She knew that at that time, so many older generation people matched in strength were trying to snatch the same treasure. Master having left midway, presumably, his heart was still very concerned about it. Don't know in the end, whose hand that treasure ended up in. Moreover, this also properly explained why when Ancestor Mo showed off his powers, when Northern Mo's million-strong army was buried alive, why no trace of a shadow was seen from those elder ancestors that had lived for several hundred years. So, it turned out none of them had returned yet. So, it turned out Master had left. Otherwise, when Ancestor Mo was chasing to kill her, he would certainly respond then. She couldn't be surrounded by countless dangers, time after time. Little junior sister is searching for Master, because you have something to ask? Zran beamed as he asked. Wouldn't it be better to live on Cloud Mist Peak? Maybe Master will return tomorrow. It was chilly on the mountain. Z was a martial arts addict who only liked to practice martial arts. Zran was so lonely that he was about to go mad. So he wanted to seize the chance to abduct little junior sister to stay here. However, how could Nangong Luyan let him do as he wished? You are sure Grandmaster Rongyan will return tomorrow? Nangong Luyan's tall frame stood upright. The sunlight sprinkled on his body, casting a layer of godlike radiance on him. What a terrifying deterrence force. Zran could feel that deterrence force Nangong Luyan's body sent out that seemed not to be there. Immediately, his heart was very surprised. That day, when he carried little junior sister to Cloud Mist Peak, that pressure his body emitted was already terrifying. Didn't expect that after not seeing him for how long, he actually became much stronger. Evildoer, simply an evildoer. If he remembered correctly, this pressure was specially targeted towards him. He didn't want such an evildoer to focus on him. Zran wiped at the cold sweat on his forehead. This? Can't say for sure. Even if snatching the treasured object ended, who knew if the master, his venerable sire, could go somewhere else on a whim? Chapter 1364, Returned as a King. 4. Since there's no way to be certain, then don't speak without thinking. Nangong Luyan sent him an indifferent glance, and picked up Su Luo's hand. Let's go home. Su Luo speechlessly touched her nose. Nangong Luyan was too much. Why did it feel as if he was targeting senior brother Zran? In fact, Su Luo never thought that when Nangong Luyan knew that during the 2 years on the Cloud Mist Peak, from the start, it was Zran who personally instructed her. This jar of vinegar became bent against Zran. Wait. Su Luo pulled her hand from within Nangong Luyan's large palm. She pulled Xinyuan Rong over and said to Zran, Senior brother living on the Cloud Mist Peak doesn't even have a single person to talk to. Let this girl stay here, and be your housemaid. This Miss Ha seems to be Northern Mo's third princess? Xiran did have some good eyesight, At one glance, he was able to recognize Xianyuan Rong's identity, and Ziran speechlessly smiled. Little junior sister, you really are extravagant, ah. How could northernmost third princess be a housemaid? If it was to go according to one's status in the world, Su Luo was only a daughter birthed by a concubine from Su family. Seeing this princess, she should have kneeled. At this time, a confused expression flashed across third princess's face. She held on tightly to Su Luo's hand. Master, I beg you not to abandon Rong Rong. Ma master. Ziran almost bit his own tongue. Northernmost third princess really just called his home's little junior sister master? Wouldn't northernmost people go mad about this? If Ziran knew that not only northernmost third princess, even Central Palace's elder ancestor followed by Su Luo's side to be her hired thug, wouldn't he get a heart attack from being frightened? Out of consideration for his health, Su Luo didn't bring out ancestor Mo senior brother. I'm handing Xianyuan Rong over to you. She is an ice and light system mage. You should look in Master's library to see if there are any useful secret books. Pick a few useful ones and teach her as you please. There's no need to be polite. Su Luo said in a very casual tone. Ziran looked at Su Luo speechlessly. This girl was still pretending to be innocent after having gotten an advantage. Those secret books in Master's study, take it out to the mundane world. Which one of those books wouldn't cause all experts in the martial arts world to rain blood, with the wind carrying its taste? She said it so easily. Casually pick some that are useful to teach, and don't be polite. Master. Third princess's face was sullen and her eyes were tearful. Ever since she took the mind pill, third princess's heart only had Su Luo. This master, the rest of the people in her eyes, were no different than bodies that could only move. Be obedient. Stay here and cultivate with senior brother. When you have reached the 8th rank, then I'll take you down the mountain. Su Luo smilingly patted third princess's head. She nurtured this girl, wasn't to really use her as a housemaid. Rather, she wanted to make a big move in the chess game. Naturally, she couldn't say it now. Third princess realized that matters were already like this, so she could only silently accept the reality. After handing third princess over to senior brother Ziran, Su Luo's group of people went down the mountain majestically. The dragon-scaled horse quickly sped towards Eastern Ling's imperial capital. At the same time, a matter that was unfavorable for Su Luo was just quietly taking place. At that day when Li Yaoyao used the teleportation rock to run out from the 9 different palace halls, she had directly sunk into a coma. However, it was the so-called good people don't live long. Scourges stay for millennium. Li Yaoyao was a typical model of a scourge, a cockroach that refused to die no matter what. Although she was unconscious in a coma, her luck was so good as to defy the natural order. She just so happened to be picked up by people from the Mo family who were passing by. Li Yaoyao used Su Luo's blood secret as a bargaining price and obtained their assistance. Chapter 1365, Returned as a King 5. Mo family didn't take Li Yaoyao back to Mo family, rather, they sent her back to Jade Lake's Li family. Because at that time, Li Yaoyao's situation was very bad. If she was to die in Mo family's people's hands, then it might have caused a huge misunderstanding between Li family and Mo family. Actually, Mo family's people really wanted to kill Li Yaoyao on the spot. So like this, wouldn't Mo family be the only people who knew that Su Luo's blood had the ability to revive the dead from human bones? However, don't know what Li Yaoyao had said that made their heart shake in fear, not daring to lift a hand against her. Finally, they obediently sent her back to Jade Lake's Li family. Li Yaoyao was seriously hurt. Although Nangong Liuyun's hit didn't kill her directly, but it did cause severe internal damage to her heart and lungs. Since returning to Jade Lake's Li family, Li Yaoyao directly sunk into a coma, and still hadn't woken up yet. Time passed gradually. This several dozen days, Jade Lake family's group of elders had continuously used their spirit energy to restore her severely damaged body. With all 3 elders' strength, they were finally able to stabilize her body. Only from today forward, Li Yaoyao's body was still wasted. She couldn't cultivate and couldn't use force to fight again. Every winter, she would cough up blood nonstop. Jade Lake's Li family's little princess was originally an alarmingly brilliant gifted talent. Now, she not only had become a waste at cultivation, moreover, She was even a sick, good-for-nothing waste. After Li Yaoyao woke up, she almost broke down. She locked herself in her room and cried loudly. She cried until she was dizzy and the sky turned black, then she fainted. After 3 days, Li Yaoyao opened the door to her room. The her right now had already restored her calm again. I want to see father. Li Yaoyao's tone carried deep hatred. As she wanted, Li Yaoyao met her father. Li Yaoyuan looked at his daughter before him. A faint feeling of doting and regret flashing through his heart. For a short while, there was silence between father and daughter. Because after this, Li Yaoyuan's talented daughter, from now on, could not enjoy the resources from the family anymore. Originally, she was held in the center of everyone's palm and lifted up high in the position of princess. Now, it was also far away from her. From far up high to fall into the dirt, this was what she was about to face. Moreover, it was a plight she would have to face for the rest of her life. Father, I only want to tell you one thing. Li Yaoyao raised her hand to stop Li Yaoyuan from opening his mouth to say some words of comfort. If you have any requests, do not hesitate to say so. This father will do his best to satisfy you. Li Yaoyuan sighed. As head of the family, he also had things he had no choice but to do. From now on, he could only search for someone to marry her off to. Father, daughter has no other requests. This daughter only wants to tell you one thing. Li Yaoyao stood there. Her body was like a soaring sharp sword. Moreover, it was a poisonous snow sword. What do you want to say? Li Yaoyuan casually asked without any expectations. Father, Su Luo obtained the scarlet blood Ningpo figwort. Li Yaoyao's tone was unprecedentedly calm. Her thin lips were pursed into a white line, and her eyes flickered with malicious hatred. The fists clenched at her side were so tight that her knuckles bones became white. Scarlet blood Ningpo figwort? Li Yaoyuan couldn't respond for a split second. Honorable father, could it be you still don't know? Su Luo ate the scarlet blood Ningpo figwort, so her blood. Li Yaoyao's lips curled into a twisted, sinister and horrible smirk. Su Luo, now, I'm already a waste, I can't kill you, but everyone under the sky might not necessarily be unable to kill you. The you right now has become a moving treasured spirit medicine, not only capable of bringing the dead back to life from bones, but also capable of prolonging a person's life. After a person who cultivates drinks the blood, their cultivation levels could be promoted. Such a miraculous blood. Li Yaoyao's smile became more brilliant and dazzling. Chapter 1366. The road being blocked is long. 1. You're saying that Su Luo's blood now? Li Yaoyuan's expression immediately became excited. Yes. Both of Li Yaoyao's hands clenched into fists, the smile on her lips becoming more cold and bloodthirsty. Just the way as honorable father thinks. Moreover. Moreover what? Li Yaoyuan could hardly conceal the excitement in his heart. Moreover, in Su Luo's hand, is the legendary sword called Chungying. Li Yaoyao's smile was like that of an Azura from hell, ferocious and terrifying. Things she couldn't get. Su Luo, don't you even think of getting. An innocent man gets into trouble because of his wealth. Su Luo had too many treasures that let other people's blood boil. As long as she released the information, she didn't need to hire anyone. Naturally, there would be a countless number of people who would advance wave upon wave to catch and kill her. Qingying sword. Li Yaoyuan's body swayed, and he almost fell over. The one you said is the ancient famous Qingying sword? Yes, there is also a Qi Shao sword that is now in Nangong Liuyun's hands. When mentioning Nangong Liuyun, Li Yaoyao's eyes shone with a ruthlessness and cold light. She would never forget how Nangong Liuyun tried to kill her in order to protect Su Luo. If she didn't have the teleportation stone in hand, she would already be dead in the 9 different palace halls. It was also from that time onwards that Li Yaoyao finally could see clearly that it turned out in third senior brother's eyes. She wasn't even worth a hair on Su Luo's head. Fancy that before, she used all costs to compete with Su Luo, to snatch him from Su Luo. Thinking of this, Li Yaoyao's hands clenched into fists, the veins on the back of her hands popping out. Having gotten these 2 good news, Li Yaoyuan slapped the table in excitement. Since it's like this, we must snatch Su Luo back to Jade Lake's palace. However, honorable father, don't forget, Su Luo is Grandmaster Rong Yun's apprentice. Mentioning this, Li Yaoyao once again gnashed her teeth in rage. Third senior brother wanted to kill her for Su Luo. Grandmaster Rong Yun used her for bait to ensure Su Luo's safety. If it wasn't for her lifeline being long, she would have already died in the hands of that witch Yinxia long ago. The hatred in Li Yaoyao's heart was like water from the sky, continuous and endless. She felt she must have killed Su Luo's entire family in a previous life. Otherwise, how could her life be controlled so firmly by Su Luo in this life? As long as she liked what she wanted. How did it all belong to Su Luo? Grandmaster Rong Yun's apprentice. This point is difficult to deal with. Li Yaoyuan rubbed his jaw as he muttered to himself. He thought a bit, then looked at Li Yaoyao coldly. If you weren't so useless, how could Grandmaster Rong Yun have taken her as apprentice? Also, it's unlikely to have this inconvenience right now. Li Yaoyao felt she was being extremely wronged. Her eye sockets were red from grief and indignation. Father, could it be that even now, you still can't see clearly? Before, Grandmaster Rong Yun's care for me was clearly all pretense. He clearly intentionally wanted that old witch Yinxia to take me away. Being used was not lamentable. The most lamentable thing was that after being used, her family still blamed her for not doing good enough. Li Yaoyao suddenly felt that her whole life was one huge tragedy. Enough, this matter will stop being mentioned now. Li Yaoyuan waved his hand in an agitated manner. At that time, in order to let Li Yaoyao be taken under Grandmaster Rong Yun's door, the Jade Lake family spent a lot of effort and financial resources. But in the end, the result was actually like that. Li Yaoyao's hatred for Su Luo grew even more, her eyes glittering like frost and snow. I heard Grandmaster Rong Yun is not on the continent right now. Now is the best time to slaughter Su Luo. Otherwise, if you wait until Grandmaster Rong Yun returns, nobody will be able to move Su Luo. Li Yaoyuan sent a very displeased glare at Li Yaoyao. Chapter 1367. The road being blocked is long too, Li Yaoyao continued to say. Jade Lake's Li family indeed cannot bear Grandmaster Rong Yun's fury, but what if Luoyu Palace Hall, Xianyuan family and Central Palace were all to join in? This is the so-called law cannot blame the crowd. Don't tell me that Grandmaster Rong Yun can exterminate all this exceptional families? Let alone to say, so many families joined together. Afraid that Grandmaster Rong Yun might not be able to escape unscathed, right? Seeing that Li Yaoyuan still hesitated, finally Li Yaoyao gnashed her teeth. Father, Su Luo was able to leave the 9 different palace halls unscathed. Do you really think she has no abilities? Let alone to say, Nangong Luyan now is already above the 10th rank. Behind him is the entire Purgatory City. Father, do you think Jade Lake's Li family is really able to swallow all of Su Luo's treasure on its own? The last segment of Li Yaoyao's words was like a bang, finally waking Li Yaoyuan up. That's right. How could he be this greedy, this confused? With only Jade Lake's Li family making a move, one carelessness, and the whole clan would face the danger of being toppled over. Since it was so, wouldn't it be better to pull a few more families over? And with everyone working with a common purpose, why would they fear not accomplishing this? What Yaoyao said is right. We'll do it according to what you said. A gratified light slipped through Li Yaoyuan's eyes. He silently made up his mind. Even though his daughter could not cultivate anymore, but her mind was Jade Lake's Li family's best pocket of wisdom. Looks like in the future, they still need to value her just as before. Li Yaoyao swept a glance at Li Yaoyuan. She was feeling somewhat pleased with herself in her heart. This time, not only did she make her father's eyes light up, she also preserved her original status. The most important thing was that she could finally take out Su Luo, this thorn in her flesh and at her side. It could be said that she got 3 things in one shot. Li Yaoyao's smile at the corner of her lips became even more pretty and dazzling. Li Yaoyuan, as the head of the Jade Lake Li family, he always handled matters swiftly and decisively. Before a day had passed, the treasure Su Luo had on her and the blood in her, the blood that can revive the dead, prolong life, and increase cultivation. This matter was spread to the entire continent. And at this moment, what about Su Luo? She was completely unaware of this matter, and still was all lovey-dovey with Nangong Luoyun, expressing their deep feelings. Because Nangong Luoyun's internal injuries were very severe, therefore, The dragon-scaled horse's speed wasn't raised to its fastest, to the extent that after traveling for 7 days, they had only covered half of the distance. This day it was getting late, the evening mist was heavy. The group was just about to find a hotel to rest for the night, but who could have known, suddenly, a strong overwhelming pressure enveloped this group. Not good. We're surrounded. Beichening half-narrowed his eyes, meeting Ziyan's gaze. The sword was held tightly in his hand, automatically going into fighting mode. Su Luo's heart jumped slightly. Ever since the day when Li Yaoyao escaped, she always had a bad premonition in her heart. It seems that now, the bad feeling had become reality. Jade Lake's Li family had Li Yaoyuan, bringing with him a group of Jade Lake Palace's death squad behind him, appeared in front of the dragon-scaled horse, blocking the path of the dragon-scaled horse that was galloping fast. Dragon-scaled horse was at the 8th rank, but Li Yaoyuan was at the 10th rank. Therefore, dragon-scaled horse could not help but stop its hooves, its back hooves digging into the ground, ready to fight at any moment. Inside the horse carriage, Nangong Luyan was still healing, his face was calm, thin eyelids not even opening. At this time, Nangong Luyan was at the most crucial moment of cultivation, and Su Luo didn't dare to disturb him. The only plan today could only use the words drag to buy time. Su Luo lifted open the carriage door, and slowly stepped down. Li Yaoyuan saw an exceptional beauty leisurely walk over, and slowly stood firm. When he saw her facial features clearly, even the Li Yaoyuan, who was used to seeing the world, couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Chapter 1368. The road being blocked is long 3, beautiful, simply too beautiful. One could only see her wearing a pure white immortal-like dress, her beautiful black hair sparkling with a gloss. Beautiful jade-like skin as fine as porcelain. Her features so beautiful that it had to be otherworldly. Her bearing was natural and easy, her manners adding to her otherworldliness. This elegance, this manner, simply made people gasp in amazement. Su Luo frowned slightly, her eyes carrying a trace of ridicule. She smiled a smile that wasn't one as she indifferently looked at this person. Beichening warned her on the side. This is Jade Lake's Li family's current head, Li Yaoyao's father. So this person turned out to be Li Yaoyao's father? Su Luo's eyes half-narrowed dangerously. Li Yaoyao's father personally brought people to come chase over. It could be seen that Li Yaoyao was already healthy and had actively returned to Jade Lake's palace. She really was a cockroach that just couldn't be beaten to death. No matter how, you still couldn't kill her. Su Luo sighed regretfully in her heart. Seeing that faint mocking manner hanging at the corner of Su Luo's lips, Li Yaoyuan immediately returned to his senses. Someone next to Li Yaoyuan said something quietly, and Li Yaoyuan's eyes were like lightning, immediately shooting toward Su Luo. So it turned out this goddess-like beauty was Su Luo. Li Yaoyuan heaved a sigh inwardly. No wonder Nangong Luyan would choose Su Luo. Such a woman, whether it was appearance or temperament, was all not something Yaoyao could compare to. This loss was not unjust. You are Su Luo? Li Yaoyuan's eyes were cold, with a stern facial expression. Su Luo greeted his pair of cold eyes like a mother tiger. Yes, so what? Other people were afraid of him, but Su Luo just took him for an ordinary person. You harmed Yaoyao? Li Yaoyuan's eyes emitted a murderous aura. You're talking about Li Yaoyao? Su Luo very naturally shook her head. Then very regretfully, I have to tell you, Li Yaoyao's injuries were not inflicted by me personally. However, it was indeed because of her. Li Aoqiong's injuries were also because of you. Li Yaoyuan got angrier as he talked. His face seemed to be shrouded by frost. Li Aoqiong. Su Luo thought for a while before she remembered who this person was. At that time, this Li Aoqiong chased to kill her until she had nowhere to go. Finally, Master appeared and saved her from the crisis. In passing, he released some spirit energy from Li Aoqiong, reducing his strength to the 4th rank. Although she did not personally do it, in fact it was also done because of her. Then Li Aoyan died in your hands. The more Li Yaoyuan spoke, the angrier he became, wishing to immediately shoot Su Luo dead under his hand. Su Luo also became more speechless the more she heard. She didn't know if she and Jade Lake's Li family had a don't rest until one was dead hatred, from a previous life. How was it that those children of Li Yaoyuan all perished in her hands? Really odd and uncanny. Of course, under these circumstances, Su Luo naturally would not admit to it. Su Luo raised her eyes, cast an indifferent sidelong glance at him and smiled coldly. Still that same sentence. At that time, I was only a 4th rank. If your distinguished self thinks that Li Outyin was that useless, and want to carelessly push the charge on my head, then whatever you say. In any case, Jade Lake's Li family is strong. Whatever you want to say will become the truth. Li Yaotian indeed did not die in Su Luo's hands, but indeed, he did die because of her. In her heart, Su Luo paid with a tribute of silence for a very few seconds for the long-departed Li Outyin. Li Yaoyuan saw Su Luo push off the blame until she was completely clean, and couldn't help but sneer. Now you don't admit it. After we reach Jade Lake's Li family, naturally, there will be ways to make you admit it. What? Is Li family's head going to forcefully snatch an ordinary girl? Su Luo's eyebrows shot up slightly, as she coldly smiled. Forcefully snatch an ordinary girl? Li Yaoyuan suddenly was dumbfounded. He, as the dignified head of Jade Lake's Li family, how was it that he was being described like a street villain? Chapter 1369. The road being blocked is long for. Are you not? Su Luo smiled coldly. Humph, this time, even if you don't want to go, you will go. Li Yaoyuan was too lazy to waste words with Su Luo. He waved his hand and the group of people blocked the way to Eastern Ling. Head of Li family, you only blocked the way forward? Here there's still 3 other directions. Bei Chenying's face was cold, lips curled in a sneer. Originally, he had wanted to call him Uncle Li, but this action of Li Yaoyuan disgusted him thoroughly. Li Yaoyuan only now seemed to notice Bei Chenying's figure, and his brows knitted tightly. There was only this apple in everyone's eyes from Beichen Palace, spoiled to no end. If he was injured, then wouldn't his irascible dad come to find him to fight with all his might? Li Yaoyuan grunted in annoyance. Beichen family's brat here, it's not your business, beat it to the side. Bei Chenying sneered. If Li family's head insists on inviting Luo Luo to Jade Lake's Li family, then it is my business. Li family's head also doesn't want to make enemies with Beichen Palace, right? Beichen Palace was in charge of all the mercenary unions on the continent. Within the union, experts were as many as clouds. Their insider information was also deep. Jade Lake's Li family also didn't dare to meet them force with force. Li Yaoyuan immediately became dignified, his eyes blazing. You are just a small stinking boy. How could you represent Beichen Palace? Beat it. A long whip suddenly appeared in his hand. The whip was fast as lightning, as it fiercely flew straight towards Bei Chenying's face. Li Yaoyuan was 10th rank. No matter what, Bei Chenying couldn't dodge this whip. Just at this critical moment, suddenly, a black sword, fast as lightning, charged towards that long whip. Just as the long whip was about to reach Bei Chenying's body, the long sword appeared like a shadow. Qi Shao sword. Qi Shao sword had spirit knowledge in it. It controlled Qi Shao sword. Even though it left his hand, it still emitted a formidable power. Qi Shao sword fiercely cut the long whip. Immediately, sparks flew in all directions, making a violent metal scraping sound. Li Yaoyuan's expression suddenly changed. When he used the long whip to sweep towards Bei Chenying, partially, it was to probe. He wanted to know how strong the expert in the carriage that didn't show his face was. Now with this one move, Li Yaoyuan's heart shook in fear. Such a terrible weapon. What a strong cultivation. Qi Shao sword moved back after one attack, to quickly fly back into the carriage. Li Yaoyuan's brows knitted firmly. If he didn't guess wrong, just now that ought to be the Qi Shao sword Yao Yao had mentioned. He recalled she said Qi Shao sword was in Nangong Liuyun's hands, so it seemed that strong expert in the carriage ought to be Nangong Liuyun. Thinking of this, a trace of fear appeared in Li Yaoyuan's eyes. Before, Li Yaoyuan always treated Nangong Liuyun as his family's son-in-law. Now, after knowing that it was impossible between Nangong Liuyun and Li Yaoyao, he suddenly discovered that Nangong Liuyun had matured too fast, too rapidly. It seemed as if in the blink of an eye, he had matured into a person that could rival him. Then, what about in the future? Maybe after another 2 years, even the elder ancestor wouldn't be able to suppress him. Just when Li Yaoyuan's frown became tighter, suddenly, a wave of spirit power movement came from midair. Suddenly, a bad premonition appeared in Su Luo's heart. It seemed that not only Jade Lakesley family came to trouble her, there was another character. Now this was problematic. Opposite of Su Luo's reaction, the smile on Li Yaoyuan's face grew wider. Brother Luo, you finally arrived. Li Yaoyuan took a step forward and greeted the Luo family's head, who rapidly rushed over. Luo Qiuming, Luo Yu Palace Hall's current master, also Luo Haochen's and Luo Jie's father. Chapter 1370. The road being blocked is long. 5. After Beichening told Su Luo this person's identity, Su Luo pressed her temples gloomily. This time, it really was a big problem. Li Yaoyao was at least alive. At that time, the Jade Lake's palace had no proof that Li Yaoyan died in her hands. But Luo Haochen and Luo Jie, while still alive, died right in front of her. If what she anticipated was not wrong, Li Yaoyao would definitely have added more oil to the fire and told Luo Qiuming everything that happened in the 9 different palace halls. She would also deliberately make Luo Qiuming think that the Luo siblings died by her hand. It had to be said, the person that understand you the best was your enemy. Su Luo's anticipations were correct. Li Yaoyao really did as what Su Luo thought, putting all the blame for the Luo siblings' death on her body. Li Yaoyuan naturally told him at the first moment that the shockingly beautiful lady in front of him was Su Luo. What? This delicate and pretty miss is that poisonous scorpion-like wife? Luo Qiuming stared at Su Luo with disbelief. What poisonous scorpion-like wife? She still was not a wife yet. Su Luo silently swept him a glance. You are Su Luo? Luo Qiuming's eyes were shrouded in ice and murderous looking. Whether I am or not, what business is it of yours? Su Luo smiled coldly. Jake Lakesley family and Luo Yu Palace Hall's relationship was very intimate. They were in-laws for many generations, not something that could be ruined with a few words. Haocheng and Jie's deaths were all because of you. Don't deny it. If it wasn't for you, this loathsome girl, they wouldn't have gone to Xian's Wood residence. If they hadn't gone to Xian's Wood residence, they wouldn't have died so inexplicably in the 9 different palace halls. Luo Qiuming recalled his 2 treasured children who died for no reason at all, and his heart twisted in pain. He said angrily, "Today this old man will make sure you die a violent death, to give them justice." Are you talking about Luo Haochen and Luo Jie? Under Luo Qiuming's righteous, menacing and murderous gaze, Su Luo's eyes were still calm as water. Her voice carried a trace of sneer. If you were to really kill me, then Luo Haochen and Luo Jie in the ground would extremely hate you. What did you say? Luo Qiuming's waved palm strike immediately stopped. Why would Luo Haochen and Luo Jie die? At that time, they clearly chose not to enter Xian's Wood residence, but because Li Yaoyao provoked the snow lions, they had nowhere to escape to. So, with no other way, they escaped into Xian's Wood residence. Su Luo smiled coldly. Su Luo's words were 90% true and 10% false, but hearing it made people firmly believe it without a doubt. You're saying it was Li Yaoyao? Luo Qiuming wavered slightly. Li Yaoyuan saw this and knew it was not good. He frowned and coldly glared at Su Luo. If it was not for you, the 9 different palace halls would not be unsealed again, and nothing would have happened to them. After all, returning to the root of the issue, it still was because of you, this loathsome girl. After Li Yaoyuan roared angrily, he turned to Luo Qiuming to say, "Dead people cannot come back to life. The only thing we can do is to take this loathsome girl's corpse as a memorial for them. Also, to take this loathsome girl's blood to benefit the whole clan." Luo Qiuming nodded his head angrily. But to say that Su Luo's words didn't create a bit of an impact on him, that's impossible. Only, under the current circumstances, he must choose to make an alliance with Jade Lakesley family. Just at this moment, another spirit force fluctuation came from the sky. This time, it was Xuan Yuan's family that appeared. Soon after, Central Palace's forces also chased over. Altogether 4 families, neat and tidy, surrounded Su Luo's group of people in the center. So flawlessly that even if they had wings, it was difficult to escape. Also, between these 4 families and Su Luo, more or less, they all had some sort of hatred towards her. A battle could break out at any moment. Chapter 1371. The road being blocked is long 6. The heads of the 4 families exchanged a glance, their eyes flashing with rapport, indicating that they all understood. After they killed Su Luo, they would split her blood into 4 equal shares. Just when the battle was about to start, Su Luo's eyes gleamed with a sneer. These families really thought that they could win? Simply too laughable. Just at this time, the carriage curtain was slowly lifted open. All 4 family heads' eyes had a cold light. They knew from the information they received, the person sitting in the carriage was Nangong Luyin. Although Nangong Luyin was the king among the younger generation, but there was still a gap between them as part of the second generation, let alone to say there were 4 of them. Since Nangong Luyin was determined to protect this loathsome girl Su Luo, then they'll just straightforwardly carry it through to whatever the consequences. The murderous aura in their eyes rose exponentially. The carriage curtain opened. A gray-haired old man stepped out from the carriage. One could see he had gray hair and ruddy skin, with a face that didn't look too old. But his facial expression was stern, eyes flashing like frost. An invisible pressure of a strong expert hovered over his body. This pressure, even though each was their family's head, their hearts couldn't help but be terrified. When Central Palace Missouri family's head saw this old man, he immediately shouted in joy and took large strides forward. "Dad!" That's right, this person indeed was the little stone-wearing elder ancestor Mo's body. At that time, when Su Luo stepped out of the carriage, she had already called him out from her space. If Su Luo could deal with the people that came herself, she naturally would not need to dispatch Little Stone. But now, being surrounded by all 4 families, how could Su Luo bear it? Little Stone's hands were crossed over his body, his chin lifted up icily and arrogantly. He leisurely scanned Mo family's head and faintly gave a sound of acknowledgement. His understated response made Mo family's head so excited that he nearly went mad, because the ancestor Mo from before, whose entire person went through recoil of madness, simply could not recognize who he was. But now, ancestor Mo looked neat and clean, seeming like a completely normal person. "Dad, do you remember me?" Mo family's head excitedly pulled on ancestor Mo's sleeve, eyes brimming with excited tears. A central palace with ancestor Mo was the real central palace. Without his deterrence force, central palace would quickly decline. These days, don't mention how concerned Mo family head was, but now, everything was all right. His old man was restored to normal. Ha 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 ha! Little Stone glanced disdainfully at Mo family head's hand, snorted twice and turned to evade his touch. "Dad, how can you be here?" Mo family had lowered his voice to ask. According to logic, for his dad to be here, then shouldn't Su Luo, that loathsome girl's blood, be absorbed completely by him? How was it that that loathsome girl was still healthy and active? Not only Mo family's head was curious about this, the other 3 heads all strained their ears to hear. Ancestor Mo's appearance completely stunned them. With Ancestor Mo here this time, it would be difficult to take some advantage of this situation. "You guys can go." Ancestor Mo's cold and detached gaze scanned them at a glance. The pressure in his eyes was self-evident. He waved his hand, as if trying to chase away annoying flies. The several family heads looked at each other in dismay. In front of the family, they sat high above, with words that carried enormous weight as head of the family. But in front of this saint-ranked expert, they were so weak as to be eliminated with one palm strike. Could it be that they would have to leave just like this? These family heads asked each other with their eyes. The more they thought, the more unreconciled they felt. The person this old man regards as important, you guys also covet? Humph, want people, are you guys qualified? The implication being that if they want the person, they could only ask their older generation to come. The time it took for Central Palace Missouri family head's eyes to turn, very quickly he understood. Looks like this Su Luo was Ancestor's property. The reason why Ancestor would follow her on this journey was because he was waiting for Su Luo's blood to regenerate, then absorb it. It must be like this. Thinking this, Central Palace's Mo family had immediately changed sides. Chapter 1372. The Matter in the Capital, 1. Central Palace's Mo head had switched sides. So things became very wonderful. Mo family head stood in front of ancestor Mo proudly and cupped his hands towards the other three head of families to say, "Three old friends, really sorry, this girl is already Central Palace's people. Please ask that you guys facilitate this." Although Mo family heads' words were polite, but did not allow them to refuse. The three family heads looked at each other in dismay. Each of them was frowning, clearly very displeased. Su Luo secretly laughed inside. At that time when Little Stone took control of Ancestor Mo's body, she thought of today's scene. Didn't expect that it really happened. In any case, Mo family head and the other three heads were all her enemies. Mo family head standing in front of her to block them. For her, this was very useful. If they would fight until both sides would suffer, then that's even better. Li Yaoyuan frowned seriously. "Old pal Mo, you doing things like this isn't very conscientious, right?" Luo Qiuming also voiced his displeasure. "Does old pal Mo want to hog everything for himself?" First Elder Xianyuan looked at Ancestor Mo, his expression unclear. Before, Third Princess had already passed him a message in secret, telling him there was nothing fishy about this Ancestor Mo. Now he didn't see Third Princess's existence, so First Elder Xianyuan took it for granted that Third Princess was discovered and was dealt with in secret. Recalling how Ancestor Mo destroyed Northern Mo's imperial palace and 10-kilometer-wide military camp, First Elder's heart was terrified. He thought a bit, cupping his hand to say, "Since Ancestor Mo fancies her, then what else is there to say?" After finished saying this, First Elder nodded towards the other two family heads, then turned around and left, disappearing immediately. Li Yaoyuan and Luo Qiuming exchanged a glance. Both saw the helplessness and compromise in each other's eyes. Now both of their family's ancestors were not here. If Ancestor Mo was to show off his power, there was simply no one to block him. Li Yaoyuan's sinister gaze swept towards Su Luo, and he sneered. "After being raised fat, then killed and nothing more, you should enjoy your last days of sunlight to the greatest extent." In any case, it's not as if Ancestor Mo was really saving her. In the end, it was hard for her to escape death. Luo Qiuming glared at Su Luo with hatred, through his sleeve and sneered several times. "Loathsome girl, if we were to kill you at least we would have done it quickly, unlike now, haha." After they were finished sneering, these two heads took their men and quickly left. Ancestor Mo gave off a must-win manner. They did not have the strength to contend against Ancestor Mo. Besides compromising to leave, what else could they do? "You also go." Ancestor Mo impatiently glared at Central Palace's Mo head. "Central Palace is in great disorder. You actually have the leisurely mood to come here and join the excitement." Ancestor Mo was clearly not pleased with Mo head's performance. Mo head's heart panicked, and he hastily smiled apologetically. Honorable Father's words is right. This son will immediately lead them to leave. Therefore, Mo head didn't have time to think some more. The soles of his feet seemed to be oiled as he flew away quickly. After seeing them leave, Su Luo's lips curled into a self-satisfied smile. "Hey little stone, you're really capable, ah. This acting is more and more like Ancestor Mo." Little Stone arrogantly raised his chin. "Don't compare me to you, idiot." "Idiot?" Su Luo pointed at her noise in disbelief. "You're saying I'm an idiot? What else, ah? How can you be chased to be killed every day in disorder?" Little Stone ruthlessly pointed at the reality. Su Luo took a deep breath of regret. "You win." "Aha." Little Stone had both hands crossed over his chest, and raised his eyes to look towards the sky. "Get in the carriage." Nangong Liuyun's chilly voice came from the carriage. Indifferent, but it carried a thread of warmth. Chapter 1373. The Matter in the Capital 3. He knew that with Elder Ancestor Mo's puppet here, nothing would happen to Su Luo, so he was able to indulge their toying with the several family heads. Now that they had toyed with them enough, naturally, they would hurry up on their journey to the imperial capital. Greed was human nature. The greed for life was human instinct, so the fear of death was even more of a difficult problem throughout the ages. The blood in Su Luo's body, from beginning to end, was a huge hidden danger. Nangong Liuyun's eyes half narrowed dangerously. After going through this brief episode, The party of people once again quickly rushed towards the imperial capital. Those several family heads came quickly and also left quickly, so they didn't affect Su Luo and the rest. But those several family heads also weren't good to deal with. They originally wanted to cling to defending the secret on Su Luo's body to the death, but after they couldn't obtain it, they naturally spread out this information completely, thus making the entire continent impassioned. Su Luo possessed spirit blood. Ordinary people wanted to extend their life. Cultivators wanted to raise their cultivation. Hence, wave after wave of people all rushed to Eastern Ling. On the road was even more various sorts of ambushes arranged. However, the master of the secret aristocratic family had personally brought a team and didn't succeed. These people, apart from throwing away their lives, what other use could they have? The little stone who was wearing elder ancestor Emo simply didn't feel like making a move. At this moment he was steadily seated in Su Luo's space, cultivating. Nangong Luyuan also didn't make a move, and even Su Luo was leisurely sitting at the side, cracking melon seeds with her teeth. The small dragon had already woken up, and there was still the lively little nine-tailed spirit fox. These two spirit pets opened up a path, and the brave heroes in the whole world didn't dare disobey. Not wanting their lives and daring to come up to obstruct, these two small things simply didn't understand what was called being polite. They just rushed up and then smashed fist after fist. The little divine dragon's fist. How could it be an ordinary fist? One fist went over and things would be squashed. Afterwards, the little divine dragon got impatient with smashing and directly puffed out a mouthful of dragon breath. Occasionally a flame, occasionally ice, occasionally, it would also be lightning and thunder. In any case, he was one with all the elements. The elements that he ought to have, he would be able to puff it out. Following this, the dead bodies on the road became more and more. The people that followed behind the dragon-scaled horse instead became less and less. Originally, they had come to fight over the spirit blood. It was precisely to extend their lifespan. Now, not only were they unable to extend their lifespans if one wasn't careful, they could even lose their lives. Wasn't that a huge loss? Therefore, in the end, a lot of people just went back and did what they were supposed to do. The few remaining people still followed behind the carriage far away. They followed the dragon-scaled horse and entered the imperial capital. Seeing these tales is really annoying. How about I go over and slaughter them all? Ziyan pulled out a double-edged sword with a swoosh sound and wanted to go over to chop them like watermelons. But Su Luo blocked her and helplessly forced a bitter smile. These people are like Chinese leek. Kill one wave, and there will be another. Let them follow. Just let them off lightly like this? Ziyan snorted in a rage. Do they think I don't know what plan they're making? They themselves are no match for you. They are hoping someone ultra-strong will come kill you, and then let them collect the spoils. Must think of a way to completely resolve this matter. Otherwise in the future, I really won't be able to go out. Su Luo anxiously pressed her temples and helplessly sighed. Other treasures can still be hidden away or simply given away. This blood of yours. Ziyan really felt there was nothing to be done about it. Be at ease, okay? Everything will be all right. Su Luo comforted her instead. While they were talking, they had already arrived at the imperial capital. Directly go to the southern mountain. Su Luo instructed the dragon-scaled horse. The dragon-scaled horse clearly also didn't like the clamor in the imperial capital. Hearing that he was to return to the southern mountains, he immediately neighed and let loose his 4 hooves, running towards the south. Chapter 1374. Demanding blood in the southern mountains. 1. The party of people lived in the southern mountains, but the entire imperial capital heated up because of their arrival. Su Luo's matter spread to every corner in the imperial capital. Su Manor. These 2 years, after Su Luo left, Su Manor entered a dull period. The entire Su Manor seemed to be in a semi-closed-off state. Madame Su and Su Jingyu still lied there half-dead, conscious, but their body was soft like an animal that had no bones and completely unable to take care of themselves. Every day, they lived a life worse than death. After Su Qing vanished that day on the battle stage, she completely disappeared. No one knew whether she was dead or alive, nor did anyone know where she was. The originally lively and noisy Su Manor, nowadays, the only one who could run and jump in the next generation, only remained Su Shi, this sole scion. However, the most unfortunate thing was Su Shi, who was originally a little genius. For these 2 years, she didn't even progress the slightest. She was still at the 3rd rank. Because the younger generation of Su Manor didn't make something of themselves. Even the position of Su Manor dropped again and again in the capital. Now, even the Lu family dared to behave atrociously over the head of Su Manor, to the point of wanting to remove and replace them. In the study, Su Zian leaned on the circular chair. There was no candlelight in the study. The hazy moonlight poured down in torrents from outside the window. Su Zian's complexion suddenly brightened then darkened, flickering nonstop. Suddenly, one could only heard a clear snapping sound. The court papers Su Zian was originally holding in his hand was directly pinched into fine powder. Hateful. A trace of anger flashed in Su Zian's eyes. According to the information that was sent back, that Su Luo, at present, was actually already at the 8th rank. 8th rank ah. Thinking that he, the stately Su Zian, these 2 years with a strongly determination to succeed, he fiercely took drugs, and only barely broke through to the 6th rank. Originally, he thought that he was already amazing, but with a slight carelessness, Su Luo, that loathsome girl, was already at the 8th rank. Who could have known at that time that the unremarkable little concubine-born daughter would someday grow to this extent? If he had known earlier, he, Su Zian, would rather smash himself to death with a brick, and still wouldn't do that thing of expelling her from Su Manor. Not speaking of that 8th rank strength of hers, just the blood in her body was of immeasurable value ah. Su Zian's mood was unstably gloomy, but the only thing that could be certain was that he very much regretted it. Just at this moment, suddenly, the earth quaked and the mountains shook in the entire Su Manor. A violent spirit power fluctuation came from the back of the mountain in Su Manor, and filled the air. Su Zian stood up in an instant, and broke into a run in the direction of the back of the mountain. That place was where Elder Ancestor was in closed-door cultivation. Now with such big movement, it definitely was because Elder Ancestor over there had news. Su Zian's heart was somewhat nervous, but he was even more overjoyed. At the time when Elder Ancestor entered closed-door cultivation, he was already at the peak of the 6th rank. Now, don't know how strong he had become. When Su Zian ran to the mountain in the back, he only saw that the entire mountain was razed to the ground. On the ground were piles of broken stones. The trees were uprooted, leaning in crazy angles, lying on the ground. Under the hazy moonlight, an old man stood there with hands behind his back. His slender, dense eyebrows were tightly knit, as if caught up in deep contemplation. One only saw an ink jade hairpin bounding his hair, dressed in a simple deep black gown, with the sleeves of his robe dancing gracefully in the evening wind as if it was flying. Elder Ancestor? Su Zian slowed his steps and ultimately stopped, wild with joy. Elder Ancestor turned to glance back at him. The bottom of his eyes were indifferent without the slightest temperature. Elder Ancestor. After Su Zian clearly saw his face, his expression became more excited. And Elder Ancestor Su faintly cast him a glance, his figure motionless. Did Elder Ancestor successfully exit closed-door cultivation? Are you already at the 7th rank? Feeling the intimidating, powerful pressure coming from Elder Ancestor Su's body, Su Zian was repeatedly pleasantly surprised in his heart. Chapter 1375. Demanding Blood in the Southern Mountain 2. At that time when Elder Ancestor entered closed-door cultivation, he was already at the peak of 6th rank. Now he ought to be at the 7th rank, right? 7th rank. Elder Ancestor Su swept Su Zian a contemptuous glance. His voice didn't have a trace of emotion. Haven't been one for a long time. Not 7th rank for a long time? Then could it be he was at the 8th rank? Su Zian, with a joyous expression, exclaimed at once, Elder Ancestor, with you here, this time Su Manor really is saved. What happened? Elder Ancestor Su's gaze carried a trace of chilliness. Su Zian then narrated in full detail the matter of Su Manor's decline in these 2 years to Elder Ancestor Su once through. Elder Ancestor Su waved his hand. He didn't put the Lu family in his eyes as he casually asked, in those years, how have the several children matured? Su Zian, who was in the midst of wailing accusingly, immediately was taken aback. Elder Ancestor Su's complexion was cold. Speak. He actually had a bad premonition. Su Zian also knew, now that Elder Ancestor had exited closed-door cultivation, he certainly wouldn't conceal it. Hence, he spoke of the matter of those several children once through. What did you say? Elder Ancestor Su was immediately angered. He heavily smashed the rocks that were piled up into a mountain at the side with his fist. In a flash, all the rocks were turned into a pile of dust. A chill sprang up in Su Zian's heart, but he still reported according to the facts. Jingyu has paralysis on one side of the body. Su Qing's whereabouts are unknown. Su Wan died long ago. Su Shi hasn't progressed in the least. Hateful. Elder Ancestor Su's appearance was sinister. Speaking of this, they were all that Su Luo's doing? Su Zian hated Su Luo to the utmost. He deeply feared that after Elder Ancestor knew about Su Luo's growth, he would blame him for driving her out. So his description of Su Luo in his speech was extremely malicious. Having heard what was said, he seriously nodded. Yeah, this son was so angry that it was unbearable. Therefore, at that time, I expelled her from the family, letting her off too lightly. A killing intent emerged in Elder Ancestor Su's eyes. Su Zian, having heard what was said, found a touch of joy in his heart. However, what needed to be said had to be said. Otherwise, if the old man obtained the information from others' mouths, it wouldn't be good. Thus Su Zian said, Father, this son is too rude and impetuous. Yeah, at that time, you should have just killed her. Death ends all of one's troubles. Elder Ancestor Su coldly flung his sleeves, and said as though it should be by right. But Honorable Father, Su Luo now is already at the 8th rank. Su Zian, while mentioning this matter, his heart was filled with remorse. What did you say? 8th rank? Elder Ancestor Su used the gaze of looking at an idiot to glare at Su Zian. Saying such lies, is it fun? It's not like Elder Ancestor Su had amnesia. At that time Su Luo, a daughter born from a little concubine, was a cultivation idiot. At that time, it was he who personally brought the girl to the testing shrine. Now he was told that in the blink of an eye, she was already at the 8th rank? Truly was slipping under the heavens, giving a huge bow to the ground. Su Zian heavily sighed. How could he have wanted Su Luo to be 8th rank? He also very much didn't want but this fact had already happened, nobody could change it. Su Zian speechlessly said, Father, this matter is true. Moreover, after she ate the legendary medicine that prevents death, the scarlet blood Ningpo figwort, her body contains spirit blood. Scarlet blood Ningpo figwort? Spirit blood? The spirit blood that can revive the dead? Elder Ancestor Su's complexion changed at once, the flesh of his 2 cheeks shaking excitedly. Yes. Everyone in the whole world says so. It must be true. Su Zian seriously nodded his head. Everyone in the whole world says so. Then it must be true? Fool. Elder Ancestor Su waved his hand jittery. It won't do tomorrow. You personally go on a trip to bring back that girl. It's no wonder that his body, in the imperial capital, nevertheless felt that countless experts were hiding in the imperial capital's surroundings. Now all of this was explained. Chapter 1376, Demanding Blood in the Southern Mountain 3. But Honorable Father, at that time I already expelled her from the manor. Su Zian hesitatingly said. Do you have definite proof that she isn't your daughter? A greedy light flashed through Elder Ancestor Su's eyes. This I don't have. At that time, all proof was sent by the Jade Lakesley family. It was also the Jade Lakesley family that forced him to expel Su Luo from the manor. Since there is no definite proof she isn't your daughter, then, she is your daughter. Besides, this grandfather, haven't said anything. What you did doesn't count. How could Su Manor's bloodline wander about destitute outside? Go tomorrow, bring that loathsome girl back. Elder Ancestor Su waved his hand, with a firm tone, not allowing others to refute. Su Zian approximately understood Elder Ancestor's plan in his heart. As long as he deceived that girl to come back, why would they still fear there will be no spirit blood? What Honorable Father said is correct. This son will go tomorrow morning. Su Zian seriously said. Southern Mountains. In fact, Su Luo had thought of it, her return this time. There should be a little reaction from Su Manor. However, Su Manor's strength was also just that. Even if Su Xian's guts were that big, he also wouldn't dare openly come to behave atrociously on the southern mountains. But Su Luo hadn't anticipated that elder ancestor Su had a breakthrough at this crucial moment, moreover, to be promoted to the 8th rank in one go. So with a supporter behind him, Su Xian's courage also got fat. His heart also started to go wild too. This day, Nangong Luyan was cultivating beside the waterfall, while Su Luo looked at the scenery, sitting on top of the wall. Suddenly, she saw a party of people quickly come towards the southern park. With only a glance, she recognized this person was Su Xian. He actually had the face to come over? The corner of Su Luo's mouth hooked into a ridiculing arc. In fact, so long as she gave an order, Housekeeper Li would naturally block Su Xian outside the door. But like this, she wouldn't be able to see a good play. Su Luo still wanted to know his backer. But she must at least give him the cold shoulder, otherwise he would still not recognize his own status. At this moment, Housekeeper Li had just blocked Su Xian outside the door. Housekeeper Li, with a stiff face and an expression so indifferent it didn't contain a trace of warmth, said, "Sirs, please return. Our master is not seeing visitors." "Is Su Luo here or not?" Su Xian bluntly said a sentence. Housekeeper Li scowled. The Su Luo the other side spoke off now was Southern Mountain's master. "This commander is Su Luo's father, now come to bring her home. This reason is inevitable and right anywhere. Even if His Highness Prince Jin was to personally appear, he would also not be able to block it." Su Xian's complexion sunk. With a stiff face, he appeared solemn and icily arrogant. A cold intent flashed through Housekeeper Li's eyes. "See or not see you, it is still what master says that counts. You wait for the time being." Housekeeper Li coldly gazed at Su Xian, and didn't immediately let him come in. He only waved his hand, then very quickly, a fast figure flashed by. Without a doubt, this figure went to inform Su Luo. Su Xian was the stately great general. Where had he suffered this kind of treatment? Not to mention now he had a dad at the 8th rank, still had a daughter at the 8th rank. What does the Lu Manor count as? Before too long, he wouldn't even put the imperial family in his eyes. But now, an insignificant housekeeper dared to give him the cold shoulder. Su Xian's cold eyes swept towards Housekeeper Li. His eyes were shady and sinister. The person that returned to inform was late and hadn't returned. Su Xian was extremely impatient and continuously questioned. Housekeeper Li's expression was as indifferent as before. Perhaps master is cultivating, General Su also knows. Can't say precisely if the cultivation time is a day or several years. It's hard to say. If there is nothing urgent, General Su better go down the mountain first. Wait until after master exits closed-door cultivation. At that time, to see or not to see, you'll naturally get the news. Chapter 1377, Demanding Blood in the Southern Mountain. 4. Su Xian hadn't expected that an insignificant housekeeper under Prince Jin would dare to give him the cold shoulder, and his anger couldn't help but soar. "Your dog eyes need to be lowered to look at me." There was not a trace of emotion on Housekeeper Li's ice-cold face. If he didn't know of master's attitude, he would have already shut all these annoying people outside the door long ago. Only little Sitsi hadn't returned. It was also sufficient to see master's attitude. Su Xian's anger in his heart became even deeper. He was actually looked down upon by an insignificant housekeeper. Time passed little by little, very quickly. An hour had slipped away. Only at this moment did little Sitsi slowly come out. He indifferently glanced at Su Xian and only said 2 words. "Come please." Su Xian, who had become impatient from waiting, snorted heavily, flinging his sleeve as he went in. He had already flown into a rage out of humiliation. At this moment, his anger was even more extreme. Front hall. Su Luo calmly sat there. The moment Su Xian entered, he saw Su Luo leisurely half reclining and half sitting on the imperial tutor's chair. The little divine dragon was in her lap, and there was another little fox with a pure white fur coat. This little fox had quite a few tails: 1 tail, 2 tail, 3 tail. 9 tails? That's not right, his eyes certainly must be blurred. Su Xian couldn't help but to count it once again. After he finished counting, his entire being didn't feel good. 9 tails, it was actually a little 9-tailed spirit fox. This simply made people's heart beat quickly. Su Zian, with great difficulty, restrained the greediness that sprang up in his heart. His gaze indifferently swept towards Su Luo, but when his line of sight fell on Su Luo's face for a moment, his whole body stiffened as if he had seen a ghost. You, who are you? Su Zian looked at the Su Luo before his eyes with disbelief. The little divine dragon was Su Luo's spirit pet. He only liked to leap up and down on Su Luo's body, so without a doubt, the person in front of his eyes was Su Luo. But her face? How could her face change to be so beautiful? The original shape of her facial features almost didn't change. Now, it looked as if it had been delicately carved, cut and polished. Every place was all exquisitely perfect to the extreme. Compared to her, how could the Jade Lake Fairy's jade-like beauty be even considered beautiful? Su Qing and Su Wan's appearance wasn't even worthy of becoming her servant. It was only 2 years' time. How could she have changed so quickly? Who do you think I am? Su Luo, on one hand, leisurely teased the little divine dragon by tickling his chin, while on the other hand, she carelessly spoke. Luo, it seems that you've been doing pretty good these past 2 years. Not only had her appearance become the most beautiful under the heavens, even her cultivation had advanced to a place that was hard for him to even hope for. In her hands, there was even the 9-tailed spirit fox from the legends that could use the change spirit technique. Envy, Su Zian was deeply envious. Su Luo, from high up looking down, aimed a glance at him disdainfully out of the corner of her eye. The smile at the corner of her mouth was indifferent, like a stranger. If not for your excellency expelling me from the Su residence, such good days, I still really wouldn't be able to have. When she mentioned the matter of being expelled from Su Manor, there was no anger, not even ridicule. There was only an unfamiliarity belonging to a stranger. After Su Zian realized this point, his heart suddenly shook. He had a very bad feeling. If Su Luo had angrily kicked up a racket or mocked and ridiculed him, in that case, it showed she still cared about the Su Manor, still cared about him, this father. However, so apathetic like this, just like a nodding acquaintance that hadn't been in contact for many years, this made Su Zian somewhat panic-stricken. Su Zian sat without being asked. With a stiff face, he assumed a fatherly attitude. That was only a misunderstanding. Now the misunderstanding is already clarified. You can return to the Su Manor at any time. Su Luo held the little divine dragon and petted the hair on his body. Occasionally, she found the time to glance at Su Zian. I can return to the Su Manor at any time. Chapter 1378. Demanding Blood in the Southern Mountain 5. Of course. Su Zian waved his hand and urged with a cold voice. Outside is not as good as home. Tidy up your things and return with father to the manor. Su Luo did not give face and directly laughed. This laugh was just like a slap that was heavily flung on this thick-skinned old face of Su Zian. Su Zian's heart was immediately angry. 2 flames burned in his eyes. Laugh. She actually laughed so unrestrainedly. Impudent. Su Zian suddenly slapped the table and stood up. What are you laughing at? Su Zian thought of the matter before when he expelled Su Luo from the manor, and his complexion swelled even redder. He truly flew into a rage out of humiliation. Su Luo stopped laughing with great difficulty. General actually asked me why I laughed? These words, you actually can also ask out loud? Su Luo. Su Zian was furious. Su Luo's breathing was somewhat unstable because just now, she laughed in too lively a manner. She calmed down with great difficulty. What? Is there still something else? Return home with me. Su Zian extended his hand, and was about to pull Su Luo. But it was very obvious, the furious Su Zian had lost his rationality. He completely forgot that now, Su Luo was already at the 8th rank. Even more, he forgot the fact that Su Luo had 2 powerful spirit pets. Awarawa. The little divine dragon directly bit towards Su Zian's hand. Fortunately, Su Zian had quick reflexes and quickly pulled back his hand, otherwise, this hand of his would be gone. Su Luo, you dare to kill your own father? Su Zian was extremely angry. Su Luo tenderly held the little divine dragon. Slowly and deliberately, she swept a glance at his somewhat messy fur. In a downplaying tone she said, "Kill my own father? Just based on you worthy to be my father?" Grandmaster Rong Yun, the master of Purgatory City. There was still that sly, mysterious big boss. Which of them didn't want to be her dad? Compared to these major characters, Su Zian couldn't even be regarded as an ant. Actually dared to boast shamelessly in front of her to call himself dad. Su Luo, are you really just this indifferent and heartless? Su Zian severely glared at Su Luo and said in a rage, "At that time Dad misunderstood you, so I expelled you from the family. But it's been 2 years, you must have had enough of being angry, right? How could biological father and daughter still have hatred from the previous day?" Su Luo speechlessly shook her head. "Su Zian, you really take yourself as too important. You actually dare to directly call father by name? Just based on this point, you deserve to die," Su Zian said menacingly. Su Luo used a looking at a lunatic expression to gaze at Su Zian. He was too into the play only, so what if he acted so realistically? In any case, at that time, she had already been stricken off from the genealogy. You leave only in the future. Don't call yourself my father again, if you want this life. Su Luo waved her hand, somewhat downhearted, to show him out the door. At that time, master, in order to let her rightfully enter Su Manor, Su Zian's infant girl that hadn't opened her eyes yet was sacrificed. Going by feeling and reason, she owed that infant girl, so this time, she saved Su Zian once. After all, if this was heard by that one in Purgatory City, Su Zian would absolutely die without a burial site. Because this represented the profaning of the goddess Yanhua. Su Zian completely didn't know Su Luo was doing it for his own good. Seeing Su Luo deny it to the end, his eyes revealed an ominous glint. "Su Luo, you have grown up now. You are extraordinary now, so you cast aside Su Manor. This is merely beautiful thinking. Impossibly stupid." These 2 words were Su Luo's evaluation of Su Zian. Su Zian was angry to the extreme, his complexion was ashen, and he pointed at Su Luo with a shaking finger. "You actually dare to speak like this to me?" Chapter 1379, Demanding Blood in the Southern Mountains 6. So what? Su Luo smilingly looked at him. "Can you beat me? Or kill me? Su Zian, I kindly advise you a sentence. You must by all means not provoke me, otherwise, your Su Manor will disappear." Actually dared to threaten him, this father? Su Luo, you believe now no one can control you? Your grandfather has already exited closed-door cultivation. You wait for us. Finished speaking these words, Su Zian, in spitting anger, flung his sleeves and left. If he hadn't left, he feared he would simply be infuriated to death by Su Luo. Seeing Su Zian angrily leave, a touch of interest flashed through Su Luo's eyes. Elder ancestor Su had exited closed-door cultivation? If he could let Su Zian so confidently come over, presumably, his strength wasn't bad, right? But so what? In any case, it was absolutely impossible she would return to Su Manor. After Su Zian returned to the manor, he directly hurried to the rear courtyard. The rear courtyard was very quiet, only elder ancestor Su resided there. At this moment, twilight had arrived. An elder ancestor Su stood beside a blooming jasper tree, lifting his eyes to gaze at the distant blood-colored remaining sun. His brows were tightly pursed. After getting permission, Su Zian pushed open the door and entered. "You didn't accomplish the matter?" Elder ancestor Su's indifferent gaze swept over Su Zian's body. Although Su Zian did his utmost to restrain the anger in his heart, anger still remained. Elder ancestor Su at such strength, his perceptivity was also very sharp, so with one sweep of his gaze, he understood everything. "I failed to live up to father's great trust." Su Zian bent his waist, his expression was disappointed. That girl relies on His Highness Prince Jin's support. Her own strength has also risen dramatically. Now she simply does not have Su Manor in her eyes. Not only that, but she also said. What else did she say? Elder ancestor Su's brows tightly pursed. Su Zian's gaze flashed, finally appearing to have made a firm resolution. He said while gnashing his teeth. She said if I still dare to call myself her father in the future, Su Manor would disappear. Impudent. Elder Ancestor Su immediately became angry. As he raised his hand, the blooming jasper tree before his eyes, in a flash, burst into dregs. Finally, it changed into fine powder and sprinkled on the ground. There was a strange quietness all around. Elder Ancestor Su gave off the pressure of a powerful expert, and the pressure nearly choked Su Zian. Su Zian sucked in a deep breath and continued to speak. Father, I'm only afraid that Su Luo won't return to the family. Even if her person returns, her heart won't be loyal. So long as her body returns, then we have succeeded, the rest. Humph humph. Greed and scheming flitted past Elder Ancestor Su's eyes. Oh, that's right, Father. Su Luo actually still has a little nine-tailed spirit fox in her hands. Su Zian recalled that little nine-tailed fox and immediately told Elder Ancestor Su the information. What did you say? A little nine-tailed spirit fox? Elder Ancestor Su was suddenly stunned. Yes, this son counted several times indeed. It really was a little nine-tailed fox. Su Zian was extremely certain. This is a treasure, a huge treasure, The little nine-tailed spirit fox's heartblood, for him, was a great supplement, a great supplement. Elder Ancestor Su's eyes suddenly brightened then suddenly darkened. It was difficult to hide the excited rays of light in them. Father! Su Zian saw Elder Ancestor Su's heart was moved, and his heart immediately became excited. As long as they obtained the treasure, when Father ate the meat, he could at least drink some soup. Su Luo is now staying at the southern mountains? Only after a long time did Elder Ancestor Su slowly start to talk. Yes. Her relationship with Prince Jean is very close? Just lacking the last step of getting married. Su Zian confirmed. Suddenly, the corner of Elder Ancestor Su's mouth raised in a cold and strange smile, and he nodded his head. Good, very good. Father. Su Zian was extremely curious. He didn't know what method Elder Ancestor had thought up. You withdraw for the time being. Wait for the good news. Oh. Elder Ancestor Su waved his hand and directly drove Su Zian out. Chapter 1380. Strange Jade Pendant. 1. Elder Ancestor Su then entered the palace that same evening. When Emperor Jing knew Elder Ancestor Su was now already at the 8th rank, his eye sockets opened wide as he stared with huge eyes. Is this true? Elder Ancestor Su, perfectly composed, sat upright on the red sandalwood chair. His serious appearance carried a trace of the indifference of a strong expert, as he indifferently nodded his head. Good, simply really good. Emperor Jing excitedly slapped the dragon chair heavily. Not long after was the battle for power between the four nations. This time, the battle for power was held precisely in the imperial capital of Eastern Ling. Not to mention who lost and who won, just the people that will come. Each and every one was an expert that they couldn't be looked down upon. If they created some movement in the imperial capital, then that would be disastrous. But what made Emperor Jing embarrassed was, there weren't that many strong experts that could stand out from the Nangong family. Now, Elder Ancestor Su broke through at such a crucial moment. How could Emperor Jing not be happy? But at this moment, Elder Ancestor Su was still arranging his family, holding a cup of fragrant tea, faintly tasting it. His face seemed profoundly mysterious. Emperor Jing had been emperor for many years. How could he not know that he had a request he wanted to mention? But an expert at the 8th rank, in the imperial capital, was already a transcendent existence. Recalling originally, Li Yaoxiang with his 8th rank strength and the entire imperial capital all couldn't help but let him have his way and freely be arrogant and despotic? This time's battle for power competition between the four countries, don't know if Elder Ancestor Su has an interest or not. Emperor Jing was also a crafty fox. Whether I have interest or not at present, it's hard to say. Elder Ancestor Su saw the topic had returned, and his gaze indifferently shot towards Emperor Jing. Oh, why do you say this? Could it be Elder Ancestor Su has some hidden trouble that's hard to mention? Emperor Jing's brain quickly turned. Elder Ancestor Su fiddled with the teacup, eyes gazing out the window. He seemed to have floated very far, and his voice carried a thread of loneliness. Alas, every family goes through a difficult time. Let's not talk about this matter. Emperor Jing originally didn't have a good grasp. Now his heart immediately understood clearly. Su Luo. It must be Su Luo, that girl. Thinking of Su Luo, Emperor Jing's heart was especially complicated. At that time, his unfilial son had repeatedly warned that he must not provoke Su Luo. He must not break Su Luo and him up. He had made a solemn vow that soon, Su Luo would soar and no one could stop her. At that time, Emperor Jing didn't believe it. He had racked his brains to break them up and to marry in that fairy of the Jade Lakesley family. The result? Emperor Jing wished he could ruthlessly hammer his own head. If elder ancestor Su has words, do not hesitate to speak. If I can help, will not spare any effort to do my utmost. Emperor Jing stopped the thoughts in his head, and the memories rushing forth from his heart. He pretended to be indifferent on the surface without a single wave. When elder ancestor Su entered the palace, he was planning on using Emperor Jing. Seeing Emperor Jing take the bite, he then shook his head, pretending to be worried. It's Su Zian, that unfilial son. Originally, the Jade Lakesley family, relying on force to bully others, pressured the Su family. He actually really expelled Su Luo, that girl, out of the Su manor. Don't know how that girl is doing, alas. These words from elder ancestor Su scolded Su Zian on the surface. In reality, he was actually avoiding the important matter and dwelling on the trivial. He completely pushed Su Zian's responsibility off cleanly and let the Jade Lakesley family carry all the black pots. Now the Jade Lakesley family's elder ancestor wasn't present. The third generation had also declined. Li Yaoxiang had also died. The Jade Lakesley family already appeared to have declined. Elder ancestor Su, after having been promoted to a higher rank, had complete self-confidence. He also didn't have that kind of reverence for the Jade Lakesley family from before. Hearing elder ancestor Su's words, Emperor Jing immediately understood 70%. It seemed that this old fogey wanted to take Su Luo, that girl, back into Su Manor, and make her recognize her ancestors again. These words from elder ancestor Su were really interesting. Originally, when they expelled Su Luo out of the manor, the Su Manor was vicious and merciless. Now that they saw that she had grown, they began to show concern. Chapter 1381. Strange Jade Pendant 2. Emperor Jing knitted his brows inside. I heard Su Luo, that girl, came back. She actually came back? Elder ancestor Su opened his eyes wide. Pretend, continue to pretend. Emperor Jing was very disdainful of elder ancestor Su in his heart, but on the surface he still accompanied with a smile and an amiable tone. Yes, I heard she returned a few days ago. Now, they are living in the southern mountains. Oh, isn't the southern mountains His Highness Prince Jin's property? Elder ancestor Su pretended he didn't know. In any case, he had just exited closed-door cultivation. Not knowing those trivial matters was to be expected. Pretend okay, continue to pretend okay. Emperor Jing harbored hatred in his heart, yet on the surface he still spoke with a face full of smiles. Elder ancestor Su may not know your families Su Luo and Luyin are harmonious. Their feelings are deep and their intentions serious. Now they are already at the stage of discussing marriage. Elder ancestor Su had laid the work for so long. Wasn't he just waiting for these words? Elder ancestor Su, with a stiff face, angrily said, since they are already discussing marriage, then properly talk, properly discuss. They still haven't married and are already living together like this. Whatever's next. Emperor Jing didn't know elder ancestor Su's tale would show so quickly. He sniggered in his heart. Yet on the surface he also wrinkled his brows. This is, alas. His Highness Prince Jin is determined to marry my family's Luo girl? Elder ancestor Su's eyes went vertical, carrying a trace of cold intention. See, she still hadn't returned and recognized her ancestor yet, and you're calling my family's Luo girl like this. Emperor Jing recalled that day Su Zian, in the main hall, was determined to expel Su Luo from the manor. This contrast, he couldn't help but somewhat rejoice in other people's misfortune. This you have to ask Liu Yun's intention. Frankly speaking, I am also unable to be in charge of this matter. Emperor Jing completely pushed his own responsibility cleanly away. So to speak, it was that girl who is determined to marry Prince Jin? Elder ancestor Su switched his wording. This, recalling the day Nangong Luyan protected that smelly girl like the apple of his eye, Emperor Jing thus knew. It was absolutely that foolish son of his that loved the other person a bit more. Your Majesty, please give my message. Elder ancestor Su stood up unperturbed. His voice was long and dragged on. If Prince Jin really wants to marry that girl, then he has to do so rightly and properly. The etiquette that is needed must not lack a bit. My words end here. I'll take my leave. Finished handing over this sentence, not waiting for Emperor Jing to reply, Elder ancestor Su left without consulting anyone. This, Emperor Jing felt embarrassed. Just now, Elder ancestor Su's meaning was very clear. He was threatening. If Su Luo was determined to marry Luyan, she must first return to Su Manor. Only entering Su Manor would those etiquette be done bit by bit. However, would Su Luo return? Emperor Jing recalled from that day the cold, arrogant complexion that was no different from Nangong Liuyun's, and he slowly sighed. This time, Elder ancestor Su really gave him a very big and difficult problem. If he couldn't succeed in this matter, this time, the power competition between the four countries, he would certainly freely look for an excuse to send him, this emperor, away. That night, Emperor Jing lied down in the palace alone. He tossed and turned yet couldn't sleep. In his mind, Elder ancestor Su's words flipped over and over. At midnight, he again threw on some clothes. With jolting buttocks, he ran to the Empress's place. The Empress, toward Su Luo and Nangong Luyan, naturally fumed with rage between gritted teeth. What suggestion could she possibly give Emperor Jing? How could she not add more medicine? Your Majesty, there are rumors outside saying Su Luo is already at the 8th rank in strength. Don't know if it's true or false. The Empress laughed with puffy sounds. Emperor Jing waved his hand jittery. That day when she left Eastern Ling, she was only at the 4th rank at best. In 2 short years, how could she possibly reach the 8th rank? These rumors you also believe in? In any case, Emperor Jing didn't believe them. Chapter 1382, Strange Jade Pendant 3. The Empress naturally also didn't believe it, because such a fast promotion speed. Even Nangong Luyan was incapable of doing so. To say nothing of Su Luo, who carried the name of being a waste material. I heard they returned several days ago. Why haven't they come to pay respects to your Majesty? The Empress frowned. No matter how powerful His Highness Prince Jin's strength is, he is still your son, when all is said and done. This medicines that were applied. Emperor Jing just berated her on the spot. What do you understand, woman? Don't talk rubbish. He certainly went to cultivate, otherwise, how could he not enter the palace? He may have said that, but that doubt had long ago unwittingly been buried. As for whether or not the root would germinate, one would have to see in the future. The second day, Emperor Jing waited, and still didn't see Nangong Luyan. The third day, it was also like this. The fourth day, the Empress and the Crown Prince encircled at the irritable Emperor Jing's side. She again applied medicinal eye drops imperceptibly. Emperor Jing slapped the table in a rage and bellowed. People come, go to the southern mountains and call over Nangong Luyan and Su Luo for me. If the old tiger didn't show its power, they might really believe he was an Ilkato? He had returned to Eastern Ling for so long. Don't speak of paying respects. He didn't even give a greeting. Did he, Nangong Luyan, believe the imperial capital was a hotel? Did he still have this father in his eyes? Was it because he had become strong so he didn't put anyone in his eyes? The more Emperor Jing thought, the angrier he became. Southern mountains. This day, as usual, after Su Luo finished her cultivation, she then leisurely lied down on the grass turf to rest. Her consciousness inadvertently entered her space. Seeing everything in her space, she suddenly felt somewhat annoyed. In the period before, since she was continuously being chased to be killed, so she hadn't properly sorted out her space. As a result, it seemed extremely chaotic inside. After all, at that time, she looted Central Palace's treasure storage pavilion. How could things not be in a mess? Taking advantage that she had time now, Su Luo began to sort out the stuff in her space. She packed them properly by arranging them into categories. Actually, she didn't need to work hard. She only need to sat in place, with her eyes tightly closed, controlling these treasures with her consciousness. Afterwards, she let them automatically fly to the place they were to be placed, and then it's done. Unwittingly, the stuff had already more or less been sorted out. Seeing the neat, clean and tidy appearance before her eyes, the corner of her mouth hooked into a satisfied smile. Suddenly, her smile stiffened at the corner of her mouth. She remembered that originally, at the Central Palace's treasure storage pavilion, she took several treasure swords. Although those several swords hadn't given birth to a sword spirit like Qi Xiao sword and the Chungying sword, they were still exceptionally difficult to find treasure swords. Su Luo originally wanted to divide these several swords to Bei Chen Ying and them, but just now when she arranged things, she didn't see those swords. Could it be she was mistaken? Su Luo closed her eyes, and her consciousness started to spread to her entire space. However, she had combed through her space inside and out, and there still wasn't a trace of them. Su Luo's eyes suddenly shone. Su Luo bent down and picked up a jade pendant from the underbrush. This snow-white jade's color resembled water, gentle and transparent. When you held it in your hand, it gave people a kind of cozy feeling, as if they were bathed in spring wind, so much so that she even felt her spirit breath change. This jade pendant, its jade quality was absolutely good, but this wasn't what aroused Su Luo's attention. Through this jade pendant, Su Luo recalled a matter. Originally, when she was in the treasure storage pavilion, she saw a worn-out sword that was black with no light, but at that time, the little divine dragon nevertheless loved this sword very much. At that time, Su Luo was puzzled in her heart, but she didn't have the time to think and only stuffed it in with all the rest into her space. Afterwards, she was chased to kill all the way and completely forgot this matter thoroughly. Now seeing this jade pendant, she remembered. Chapter 1383, Strange Jade Pendant 4. Because at that time, this jade pendant acted as the sword's tassel, and it was hanging on that worn-out, broken sword hilt. This jade pendant, it seemed very old, but from which specific ancient time, Su Luo couldn't think of clearly. Suddenly, Su Luo smiled, with Nangong Luyan present. Why should she ponder over it? Why not just ask him, this moving encyclopedia of knowledge, okay? Saying to do this, then she just did it. After Su Luo exited her space, she held the jade pendant and walked towards Nangong Luoyun's room to look for him. After waiting for Nangong Luoyun to finish cultivating, then Su Luo pushed the door open to enter. Are you a little bit better today? Su Luo saw Nangong Luoyun's facial color was a bit better than before, and her mood also followed, starting to be more high-spirited. And Nangong Luoyun pulled her along to sit down on the soft couch. You already calculated the time before coming over? Afraid to disturb your cultivation, Su Luo took the opportunity to sit at the side of his leg, but Nangong Luoyun's long, slender but strong arm, with one move, and Su Luo, completely lacking the strength to resist, had her sat on his thigh. An ambiguous fluid expression slipped through Nangong Luoyun's eyes. His finger wandered over her back. Don't start, I need talk to you about a serious matter. Su Luo unhappily stopped his hand. Nangong Luoyun grunted. Suddenly, he used a kind of strange gaze to stare at Su Luo. This gaze watched her until Su Luo's heart became scared. Why are you using this kind of gaze to look at me? Su Luo couldn't conceal the surprise in her eyes. You. Nangong Luoyun's hand extended out, and in one move, grabbed between Su Luo's thumb and forefinger. His movement was fast as lightning, and after Su Luo returned to her senses, he had already grabbed her hand. Hurts. Su Luo exhaled out a sound from the pain. Don't move. Nangong Luoyun's face was rigid and had a never-before-seen seriousness and imposing atmosphere. Su Luo was extremely confused in her heart. In the end, what was going on? Nangong Luoyun's behavior was too strange, right? Just now, his gaze was frighteningly unfamiliar. Thousands and tens of thousands of thoughts went through Su Luo's mind, but in this kind of juncture, she was afraid any sounds she made would interrupt Nangong Luoyun's train of thought. As a result, she sat there motionless to allow him to study her. It was after a cup of tea's time before Nangong Luoyun released Su Luo, as if having a weight of his mind. This cup of tea's time for Su Luo seemed even longer than a year's time. Now can you tell me what happened? Su Luo helplessly looked at him. His actions just now really scared her. On your body. Are you wearing something strange? A trace of a perplexed expression flashed through Nangong Liuyun's eyes. Strange thing? Don't have awe. Su Luo blinked her eyes innocently. I always hate to wear accessories. Moreover, I'm used to tossing things into my space, so it's convenient to make use of them. Just at this time, Su Luo twisted her body a bit. Thump, a piece of a round jade pendant fell out from Su Luo's sleeves. Su Luo's hand reached out to grab it, but Nangong Liuyun's speed was faster than hers. That pair of slender, long and jade-like fingers picked up this jade pendant decorated with dragon design. This was something I found just now after tidying up my space. Su Luo saw Nangong Liuyun looked at that jade pendant with a dazed expression, and she couldn't help but to open her mouth to explain. After quite a while, Nangong Liuyun suddenly realized. So it turned out to be so. So it turned out to be what? He might have suddenly realized it, but there was still a miss facing him that was confused. Su Luo pinched Nangong Liuyun's lean and strong hip. Stop keeping me in suspense, quickly say it ah. Nangong Liuyun hugged Su Luo and asked full of heartache, did I injure you just now? Su Luo extended a snow-white bright wrist. But now, the white area between her thumb and forefinger was bluish-purple. It looked like a horrible sight to see. Chapter 1384. Strange Jade Pendant, 5. Nangong Liuyun's eyes were full of distress and self-blame. Su Luo waved her hand, signaling that it didn't matter. It may look very serious, but in fact, it doesn't hurt a bit. Would you stop using the expression of looking at a waist to look at me, okay? At the very least, I'm at the 8th rank ah. An 8th rank expert, the Li Yaoxiang at that time, was at this level and nothing more. But just now, you were 100% a waist ah. A complicated expression appeared in Nangong Liuyun's beautiful eyes as he slowly spit out the truth. What? I changed into a waist again? Su Luo almost spit out a mouthful of water, nervously seizing herself up from head to toe. She didn't even forget to move her spirit force. It was when she was sure her cultivation in her body was still there, before she curiously asked, why? What happened? Nangong Liuyun's hand gripped the jade pendant, then pulled Su Luo to walk with him. Follow me. At this moment, Beichening just so happened to have hands clasped behind his back. A group of henchmen followed behind him. He glanced in all directions and walked over. That sloppy little appearance was the splitting image of the little evil tyrant in dramas bringing a group of flunkies to stroll the street to snatch women from good families. This youngster couldn't stay still on Southern Mountain. On the second day they had arrived at Southern Mountain. He had already gone down the mountain. Now see, after he had finished playing, he once again came up the mountains to look for Nangong Liuyun and her. Beichening, with one glance, saw Su Luo at the other end of the mountain. As for Nangong Liuyun at his current angle, he couldn't see him. At this moment, Beichening gave a smile that was more brilliant than sunlight. Waving his hand and loudly called out a greeting. Oh, I'm over here. Su Luo's face was full of black lines. Could she say that now? They were separated by 3 mountaintops distance, okay? Don't know what medicine Beichening ate. He ran over like the wind and left those subordinates that were following him far, far away. Beichening's speed was very fast. In less than a cup of tea's time, he had leapt across the 3 mountain tops. He arrived in front of Su Luo, not breathing hard and not red in the face. His face was flushed, seemingly very excited. As expected, the next second, the childlike Beichening started to talk, dancing and gesticulating with joy. You are locked on top of the mountain all day. Definitely don't know how lively the imperial capital is right now. That's what is called one person surging up like the tide, so crowded. Oh, that's right, Luo Luo. Aren't you short on money? Follow third older brother, and there will be meat to eat. With him being pleased with his own self, Beichening simply even changed the way he called himself. Normally, he would flatteringly call her sister-in-law. Now being pleased with himself, he called himself older brother. Su Luo secretly smiled. She knew that besides Nangong Liuyun being the second brother, the rest of the 3, their rankings were always indeterminate. Each and every one of them said they were third older brother. None of them wanted to become fourth and fifth brother. Although Su Luo was always curious why Nangong Luyan was second brother and not eldest brother. But this question no one answered her. Just when Bei Chening was slapping Su Luo's shoulder, promising to bring her to make a lot of money, suddenly, he felt his back go cold, an ice-cold breath enveloping him firmly. In this second, the air in the surroundings seemed to freeze. Bro, second brother, you are also here? Bei Chenying's mouth split open into a smile that was uglier than crying. Nangong Liuyun's icy sword-like gaze shot towards Bei Chenying's hand. In an instant, the hand Bei Chening placed on Su Luo's shoulder seemed to be drenched in boiling lava. In a conditioned reflex, it very quickly drew back. He gave several forced laughing sounds. Haha hee hee, you are also here? Now Bei Chening wished he could chop off his two little paws. Touch what isn't good. He actually went and touched the treasure at the tip of Nangong Liuyun's heart. Boo-hoo, really afraid of being beaten up. Chapter 1385. Strange Jade Pendant 6. In childhood, because he and Lan Xian, that fool, made a bet on who would first get some of second brother's hair, the result was that he took advantage of when second brother was at the peak of exhaustion from practice. Then he stealthily touched second brother's soft hair. Before he could pull off one strand of hair, the originally exhausted to the point of fainting second brother suddenly opened his bloodthirsty and icy eyes. The result was that he was chased to be killed for 3 days and 3 nights. Second brother, that beast, clearly could have just caught him by stretching out his hand, but he wouldn't. Every time when he was almost caught by him, he would directly kick him in a parabolic arc. Then after he would continue to chase Aoke. In the end, his butt was swollen for a full 3 months and he couldn't sit down to eat. Those 3 days created how big a trauma to the young little Beichen's heart. Even now it still cast a shadow. Nangong Luyan faintly swept a glance, and Bei Chening, in a flash, jumped 3 steps away from Su Luo. Nangong Liuyun's dark red thin lips hooked into a ghost of a smile, his calm and rippleless eyes landing on Bei Chenying's body. His tone was light, but carried a strong emphasis that wouldn't allow dissent. Come here. Bei Chening, this fool, subconsciously covered his little butt. His face was full of nervousness and being on guard. What do you want to do? It could clearly be seen how strong the shadow was from childhood. Su Luo watched this while being extremely curious. She poked Nangong Liuyun's arm. In the end, what did you do to him? Why would Bei Chening, for no cause or reason, cover his butt? Could it be that Nangong Luyan did something bad to him, such as completely destroying his anus? Su Luo's pair of black as ink, quick-witted eyes whirled around, flickering with curiosity and intent to gossip. Nangong Luyan unhappily patted Su Luo's head. What is your little brain thinking of? Su Luo spit out her tongue. Some things cannot be said. Nangong Luyan speechlessly swept Su Luo a glance, the corner of his mouth twitching slightly. In the end, without much choice, he could only loosen his tone and beckon to Bei Chening. Come here. It's not like I'm going to eat you. What do you want to do in the end? Bei Chening wanted to cry but lacked the tears. Truthfully speaking, now the thing he wanted to do the most was to take to his heels and run. But if it was like this, the soft, fleshy part of his, but would just so happen to be exposed before second brother's eyes, then, wouldn't he directly kick him flying? Based on second brother's current cultivation, maybe he would be kicked flying past 3 huge mountains. Bei Chening looked at Su Luo with a cry for help. Su Luo shrugged her shoulders and spread open her hands, expressing she wanted to help but it was difficult to help him. Bei Chening looked at Nangong Luyan, full of grief. He dilly-dallied, as if walking to a noose, taking 1 step forward and 3 steps back. But in the end he was still resigned to his fate, and stopped in front of Nangong Luyan. Nangong Luyan looked at him as if looking at an idiot, and didn't feel like arguing with him. He directly tossed over an object and instructed in an indifferent tone. Wear it. Wear it. Bei Chenying's hand held a jade pendant with dragon designs. His pretty huge eyes looked towards Nangong Luyan, full of puzzlement. If you want to eat it, it's also okay. Nangong Luyan impatiently waved his hand. He felt that Bei Chenying's IQ right now should be a negative number. Bei Chenying's eyes suddenly lit up. Based on his understanding of second brother, when he looked at him using an expression of looking at an idiot, then it mostly means he was too lazy to bother holding a grudge with him. Although he was being looked at as if he was retarded, but able to jump over a calamity, then it was better than anything else. Okay, wear it, then I'll wear it. Without saying anything more, Bei Qining tied the odd jade pendant to his waist. Raise your head, stick out your chest and stand properly. Nangong Liuyun's faint tone came over. As a result, Bei Qining immediately stood up very straight like a post. Nangong Luyun held Su Luo's hand and pointed to Bei Qining to say, "Carefully sense a bit, how does he seem right now?" "How does he seem?" Su Luo held her chin and walked around the statue-like Bei Qining for one circle then another. Bei Qining wanted to cry but lacked the tears. Thinking that he, as the stately young master of Beiqin Palace, he would always ride a horse to cross a bridge with houses full of women beckoning him with red sleeves. There was only he, the young master of Beiqin Palace, to choose others' rule, but now, he was being assessed from head to toe by a little Mississippi. The most important point was that he simply didn't know what the other side was looking for. That expression of Su Luo's seemed to say that this pig is fat enough. You can take it out to kill it. Okay. Really scary. Author's notes. A day and 4,000 lines of discussion like this. How could this author dare to move against Little Shadow? The strong, you guys directly changed Bei Qinying's fate. Don't you guys feel important? Chapter 1386. Big Plan of Making Money 1. Bei Qining wanted to cry but lacked the tears as he weakly asked, "Sister-in-law, in the end, what are you looking for?" Su Luo lifted her eyes, the corner of her lips curving at him. "You really don't know?" "I really don't know." Bei Qining was curious to the extreme. As a result, he nodded his head with all his strength. He really couldn't understand after much thinking. It was just a jade pendant. Why would the two of them have such a strange expression? Su Luo laughably looked at this lively youth full of sunshine. She patted his shoulders with a tone carrying a trace of sympathy. "Little Bei Qining, you this waist alas." "Wha waist?" Bei Qining opened his eyes wide in disbelief, waving his fist to demonstrate his strength. "Is there another that is more gifted than me, Bei Qining?" But Su Luo and Nangong Luyun used an identical sympathetic expression to look at him. Their looks made this dressed-in-red youth's heart jump with ba thump sounds. Suddenly, he became somewhat apprehensive. At this time, those few attendants of his finally ran over eagerly. Each and every one of them was perspiring freely, gasping for breath. When they saw Bei Qining, they immediately let out a breath of relief. "Young master, next time, you must by all means don't abandon us and run off alone. If you do so, how are we supposed to protect you?" Bei Qining humphed with disdain. "You can't even chase up to this young master. How are you supposed to protect this young master?" "Hey," these words that were said seemed reasonable. These 4 bodyguards suddenly seemed to see the light. But immediately after, when they saw Bei Qining, their complexions suddenly became deathly pale. You. Their fingers pointed at Bei Qining. Each and every one of their eyes were opened wide, as if they had seen a ghost. Bei Qining became more bewildered, his sword-like eyebrows wrinkling. His eyes were like snow swords and swept them a sideways glance. What did you guys discover?" He wasn't able to get the answer from second brother and Su Luo, but these people were his attendants. They would not dare to conceal it from him, right? "Young master, your cultivation. How could it?" The 4 bodyguards were so anxious that they almost cried. In the end, what happened? Bei Qinying's hand extended out and with one lift, he hoisted up the bodyguard nearest to him. His expression was gloomy and cold, carrying a threat. "Still won't quickly say it?" That bodyguard immediately explained everything clearly. "Young master, don't know what happened just now looking at you. You only have the cultivation of a first rank but able to lift him up with ease." This proved that young master's cultivation did not disappear. First rank. Bei Qinying's disbelieving gaze swept towards the other 3 bodyguards. Yes, really only at the first rank. Didn't lie to you." Those 3 bodyguards all stood up straight and nodded their heads in sync. Bei Qining tossed the bodyguard he held in his hand to the ground and looked at his own hand in bewilderment. Then, He lifted his eyes to look towards Nangong Luyin. In the end, what is going on? Bei Qining mumbled to himself. Su Luo's white as jade finger pointed towards the jade pendant at his waist. Could it be that the problem comes from this jade pendant? Bei Qining took off the jade pendant. He fiddled with it in his hand curiously. This jade pendant was the one second brother just tossed to him. When he tied this jade pendant to himself, a strange thing happened. If I didn't guess wrongly, this jade pendant has the ability to deceive. Su Luo indifferently said. After wearing this jade pendant, Bei Qining, your cultivation only seemed to be at the first rank. Then, aren't you just a waste? Saying till the later part, Su Luo couldn't help but to start laughing. For real or faking it? How is it that I don't feel anything? Bei Qining stared at the jade pendant curiously, looking at it from left to right. He couldn't find anything strange about this jade pendant. Su Luo saw he didn't believe it, so she took back the jade pendant from his hand and tied it to her own waist. She used the jade pendant as a decoration for her dress. Chapter 1387. Big Plan of Making Money. 2. Just when Su Luo hung this jade pendant on her body, suddenly, the aura on Su Luo's body abruptly changed. Now, she looked like a little miss that didn't understand cultivation at all. Wow. So it's really like this. Bei Qinying's eyes brightened in a flash. As expected, this jade really has the ability to deceive, able to conceal a person's aura. Moreover, you can control it to show the strength you want to show. For example, say you want people to think you are only at first rank strength. Then you are completely able to reveal a cultivation at first rank. Su Luo smilingly explained. Only, this jade pendant was somewhat of little value. Its impact wasn't as great as a spirit pinball. Suddenly, the rays of light in Bei Qinying's eyes shot in all directions. I have it. One could only see him waving his fist in excitement. Clearly he was very excited. What's up? Su Luo asked curiously. Do you know why I came to find you this time? Bei Qining winked his large, pretty and bright eyes. Why did you come? Su Luo asked with some curiosity. Do you want to earn a fortune or not? Bei Qining grinned with hee-hee sounds and crossed his hands over his arms. His face was so proud of himself that he couldn't conceal it. Money, ah? With regards to us, does money even have any meaning? Su Luo calmly replied with a question. With regards to them as cultivators, money was merely a worldly possession. Money already couldn't buy the things they needed. Only crystal stones were useful to them. What we will be winning will be crystal stones. As if he could hear Su Luo's thought, Bei Qining smilingly sat down on a rock at the side, as he unhurriedly said. Every time the four countries' power struggle competition, it will always feature a gambling joint. Last time, a large part of it was won by Luo Haoming from Luoyu Palace Hall. It really was a great regret in my life. Luo Haoming is, Su Luo asked indifferently, able to win and snatch away crystal stones from Bei Qining and Nangong Liuyun's hand. He certainly was not an ordinary character. Luo Haoming is Luo Haochen's biological older brother. Bei Qining, seeing Su Luo didn't know, so he started to help her plug the holes in her knowledge. Like this kind of family's #1 successor, normally, they would be single-mindedly cultivating. They would hardly ever come out to move about. But it cannot be denied that their strength are all very formidable. Moreover, Nangong Liuyun's eyes narrowed slightly, the corner of his lips slowly hooking up. His pitch-black as night eyes seemed profoundly mysterious. No one could guess at the thoughts in his heart. Moreover what? Su Luo questioned closely to ask. Moreover, the #1 from last time's roaming dragon list was this Luo Haoming. Bei Qining really didn't want to say this matter out loud. In the end he only sighed and told the truth. The four countries' power struggle competition, in fact, has another name, called the ranking competition for the roaming dragon list. Bei Qining, seeing Su Luo completely didn't know, so he explained it to her bit by bit. The last competition because we were still young, so we all couldn't participate. But the majority of the people in our older brother's generation all participated. Older brother's generation? Su Luo's eyes blinked. Bei Qining unhappily looked at Su Luo. These days indeed, you have seen a lot of the younger generation from influential families. But none of them are the number one successor to the families. Those people are. In this aspect, Su Luo was a complete novice. That's also right, because these days if she wasn't being chased to be killed, she was just fleeing, or she was searching for antidotes. Where would she have the time to understand these things from every country? Also, there was no one to tell her these stuff. Bei Qining lifted his eyes to steal a look at Nangong Luoyan. Seeing that he didn't stop him, so he talked nonstop to teach everything to Su Luo. Among the 10 great families, the absolutely amazing characters are many. Just take the roaming dragon list to explain. The top of the list on the roaming dragon list is Luo Haoming. At that time, he was 10th ranked. The second person on the list is Anya Xin, the number one successor for Anya family, 10th rank. The third person is Central Palace's number one successor, Mo Xiaoxuan, 9th rank. Only after these people got on the roaming dragon list, did they all concentrate fully on cultivation. So you couldn't even bump into them. Chapter 1388, Big Plan of Making Money 3. Bei Qining saw Su Luo look distracted from listening to his explanation, so he added another sentence. This was their achievement at that time, 10 years ago's history. Can't be right. Su Luo's eyes were opened so wide that they were clear. Among the hidden powerful families, there are still so many strong experts that are hidden. The strength that was shown on this continent is merely a small part of it. Bei Qining smilingly said, this continent is a lot bigger than what you imagined, and also a lot stronger. Bei Qining again said, if you can enter the top 10 on the roaming dragon list, then the benefits are something you can't imagine. Oh, what benefits? Su Luo asked somewhat expectantly. The top 10 on the roaming dragon list will become the most promising, and also have the most strength in the younger generation on this continent. They will be bathed in divine light. If their luck is good, it will be an opportunity to activate the hidden element attribute in their body. Bei Qinying's eyes showed an endless yearning. If one could activate the dark attribute. The dark attribute, as everyone knows, was the strongest attack attribute. But because it had practically disappeared on the continent, therefore, lightning attribute became ranked number 1 attack attribute. If one could obtain the dark attribute, at that time, receiving the king of dark attributes inheritance. Just thinking about it, Bei Qining was about to salivate. At this moment, Su Luo gave a howl of grief silently in her heart. Originally, she had thought that her 8th rank was already enough to look at. To participate in the power struggle competition of the 4 countries should be enough to hold a place among the top 10, right? But listening to Bei Qinying's description, she suddenly had a wanting to cry but lacking the tears feeling. 10 strongest. Would it really have a sit for her? Nangong Luoyan patted her head. You wanting to enter the top 10 strongest naturally is not a difficult matter. With him here, how could a top 10 be difficult? If it was only possible. Su Luo gloomily grabbed her hair. Now, she didn't even have the qualification to enter the competition. This jade pendant? Bei Qining once again built a plan on this jade pendant. This jade pendant. A crafty light flashed through Su Luo's eyes. She beckoned with her hand, and the 3 people formed a circle. Then, Su Luo said her idea once through. Sister-in-law, you are simply too black, two-faced, that kind of black. Bei Qinying's eyes sparkled as he excitedly said, are you praising or disparaging me? Su Luo tapped his forehead in annoyance. Naturally praising you. Okay. I'll take charge of all parts of this matter. You guys just wait to collect the crystal stones. Bei Qining was also an impetuous person, saying he will do it, he will then go do it. He turned around and immediately ran down the mountain. Those 4 bodyguards were already sent away to keep watch. Now they naturally followed behind Bei Qining eagerly to run down the mountain. Bei Qining is quite cute. Su Luo looked at Bei Qinying's red brocade gown that was blown up by the wind, and smilingly shook her head. Like a child that hasn't grown up. Very amusing. He ought to grow up. Nangong Luoyan snorted twice. Wait until after this time's matter gets resolved. Then let him and Ziyan get married. Their 8 words of compatibility haven't even been written. Are you going to rigidly force this marriage? Su Luo cast an unhappy glance at him. Soon after, A crafty expression flashed through her eyes. However, the foreshadowing has already been buried, just will depend on how they freely develop. Inside this time's making big money plan, Ziyan played a necessary part. Her contact with Beichening naturally would not be little. This coming in contact often, wouldn't it slowly create feelings? Su Luo smiled with a face full of complacency as she watched Beichening's back. The two people didn't stand long on the side of the overhanging cliff before someone came to report. Emperor Jing had sent people over. Su Luo smilingly cast Nangong Luyan a glance. Looks like your father the emperor got impatient. Chapter 1389 Big Plan of Making Money for. I ought to go and have a look. Nangong Liuyun's elegant hand held Su Luo's and said to her, Come with me, let's go together. I can go with you, but we must start to perform the show from now on. Su Luo placed this dragon-designed jade pendant that could conceal her aura at her waist. She mobilized her spirit force and changed her aura. Very quickly, the aura that her body gave off became a lot weaker. An expert, at one glance, would know she was barely at the 5th rank. You alas. Nangong Luyan saw Su Luo started to play, and he helplessly smiled in a spoiling manner. He pinched her nose. Humph humph, I want to see when your father the emperor sees my strength, whether he will still prevent our marriage. Su Luo raised her chin. A calculating plan flashed through her eyes. Maybe it was because she fought her way from northern Mo to the imperial capital, so there were people who saw her real 8th-ranked strength. The result was that this matter was spread to the imperial capital. Su Luo always liked to bury her cards deep and have it explode out at a critical moment. But now, her strength had been completely seen by people. This was not something she wanted to happen. Therefore, when she found out this dragon-designed jade pendant could conceal her real strength, moreover, it could change her aura as she wished, Su Luo naturally was extremely happy. However, this dragon-designed jade pendant was not all-powerful. For example, now Su Luo was at the 8th rank, but no matter what, she could not imitate the strength of a 9th rank. That was to say, she could only pretend to be weak and could not pretend to be strong. From southern mountains to the imperial capital wasn't really that far. Based on dragon-scaled horses' speed, they would arrive in an incense's stick of time. Inside the imperial study, Emperor Jing had his hand behind his back, walking back and forth inside the luxuriously decorated imperial study. His expression seemed to be somewhat perturbed. After he saw that unfilial son of his, how was he to mention the matter of Su Luo? Based on his overprotective temper, alas, he shielded her like that. Why wouldn't he shield his own dad? Emperor Jing depressingly patted his own head. Just at this time, the sound of 2 steady footsteps came from outside. Emperor Jing's speed was very fast. As if flying, he ran to the long table. Nangong Luyan pushed open the door after he led Su Luo and walked in calmly. At this moment, on the table in front of Emperor Jing was a layer of paper, his right hand holding a writing brush, just standing calmly there. Underneath the brush, energetic and strong words appeared one by one. Nangong Luyan searched out a chair without leave and brought Su Luo to sit down. Afterwards, he attentively brought her tea and poured it for her. Emperor Jing originally had put on airs, stretching his face taut, pretending to look strict and serious. But looking at the two of them before his eyes drinking tea and eating pastries, without regard for others and exchanging flirtatious glances, completely lacking moral principle, anger immediately rushed up from within. No matter how you say it, he was still his elder. Who would enter a room and not greet one's elder before starting to eat? Emperor Jing, panting with rage, tossed down the brush. The brush was tossed onto the paper. Immediately, the nicely written words were destroyed. In the wake of the sharp and clear sound that arrived, only now did Nangong Luyan leisurely raise his eyes to sweep Emperor Jing a glance. Emperor Jing, panting in rage, glared at him. Finally no to return? Nangong Luyan with a ghost of a smile. What matters does Father Emperor have to call us over? Nothing the matter, then you would go? When Emperor Jing heard his words, the anger he restrained with great difficulty rushed up like the tide. Not so. Nangong Luyan tossed a date cake into his mouth, then unhurriedly said a sentence. If you have nothing, then I have some matters to mention. Emperor Jing knew things that Nangong Luyan wanted to speak off certainly would be troublesome matters. As a result, he hurriedly waved his hand. Calling you over, I naturally have matters to discuss. Saying this, he fiercely glared at Su Luo. Chapter 1390. Big Plan of Making Money 5. However, when he sent this glare toward Su Luo, his eyes immediately became somewhat blank. Su Luo saw Emperor Jing looking over and smilingly said hello to him. Uncle Nangong, I trust you've been well since we last met. According to her current strength, in Eastern Ling, she was a transcendental existence. Naturally, she didn't need to be as submissive as before. Who would have thought that when Emperor Jin saw her smile, his soul almost immediately flew out. You, who are you? Emperor Jing's voice carried a thread of trembling. This face seemed very familiar, as if he had once seen it in his old memories. But Emperor Jing was unable to recall where he had previously seen it. Su Luo faintly smiled. Does Uncle Nangong remember me? At that time, I exchanged a few spirit treasures from the treasure storage pavilion. Still, I hope Uncle Nangong won't take offense. You are Su Luo? Emperor Jing opened his eyes wide with disbelief. Just at this moment, the sounds of graceful footsteps came from outside the door. Escorted by palace maids and court eunuchs, the Empress, dressed in a dark yellow phoenix gown, leisurely arrived. When the Empress saw Su Luo's appearance, her entire person seemed to have been immediately fixed in place, completely stunned. At this moment, Emperor Jing's voice came through. The shock in the Empress's heart was as if empty Tai had collapsed. A flood had overflowed to the heavens, her figure swayed and almost fell. This woman's beauty was to the point that made even her choke. Could it be Su Luo? The Su Luo who the Crown Prince had broke off the engagement with from before? This was impossible. Now, the Crown Prince who had accompanied the Empress by her side, his mouth was also opened into an O shape. Su Luo? The Crown Prince directly started to stutter. Such beauty was not of this world. A stunning woman from all aspects. How could she be that originally delicate, pretty and beautiful Su Luo? However, she really resembled Su Luo. Her facial features practically hadn't changed. But don't know why, looking at her now gave people the feeling of a beauty that shook people to the core, close to suffocating. The Crown Prince stared stupidly at her, his soul almost leaving his body. Nangong Luyan coldly snorted with displeasure. Momentarily, in the originally warm air, it seemed as if air conditioning had come on. In a flash, the temperature dropped to freezing point, so cold that people trembled all over. The Crown Prince, Empress, Emperor Jing and other people suddenly felt a coldness on their backs, a chilliness slowly spreading from the soles of their feet. Nangong Liuyun's long arm extended out, pulling Su Luo to directly sit on his leg. His strong, powerful arms held Su Luo's lovely full waist, dangerously narrowing his long and narrow phoenix-shaped eyes. He cast a provocative glance at the Crown Prince, the corner of his mouth hooking into a demonical wicked sneer. Su Luo was originally engaged to the Crown Prince, but he personally broke off this marriage proposal. Now Luo was Nangong Liuyun's treasured girl. The Crown Prince looked at Su Luo. His legs practically couldn't move. His heart was full of what was called remorse. At that time, how could his heart be confused by pig's lard? How could he have broken off this marriage? If he hadn't broken off this marriage, then this exceptionally beautiful woman would be his. The Crown Prince was just having daydreams of regret in his heart when Nangong Luyan swept a meaningful glance over. Immediately, the Crown Prince's back seemed to have been pricked by long needles. His whole body seemed to have fallen into an icehouse. Emperor Jing was the first to return to his senses. He saw the atmosphere was stiff and quietly coughed once. You all came? Sit. Able to let Emperor Jing grant a seat in the imperial study, this was an unprecedented rare honor. Not because the Empress and the Crown Prince had obtained Emperor Jing's sacred heart. It was simply that Emperor Jing saw Nangong Luyan seated as steady as empty Tai. And even this daughter of Su Zian was steadily sitting there, so there was no reason for the Empress and Crown Prince to accompany them by standing. So he simply waved his hand grandly, and everyone all sat down. Seeing before her eyes this scene like three large nations gathering to discuss the economy, The smile at the corner of Su Luo's mouth increasingly enlarged. The play following this would be very marvelous. Chapter 1391, Big Plan of Making Money 6. Emperor Jing, seeing Nangong Liuyun's appearance of acting as though there was nobody else present and not getting involved, he immediately got angry again, and he heavily snorted. The two of you. Just when Emperor Jing spoke, the Crown Prince, in amazement, suddenly interrupted. Father Emperor, wait. The Crown Prince seemed to have discovered a very strange fact. He loudly stated. Su Luo, originally, when you left, you were at the 5th rank, right? How come now you are still at the 5th rank? What? Emperor Jing was suddenly startled. He hastily looked toward Su Luo. Emperor Jing's cultivation wasn't high, so he was unable to tell. However, with a wave of his hand, a colorless gray figure appeared beside him and leaned over to mutter something beside his ear. Actually, really only at the 5th rank? Emperor Jing's despising gaze swept over Su Luo. He coldly said, the legendary genius was only merely this. The news that arrived several days earlier had said Su Luo had stepped into the ranks among the 8th rank or higher experts. At that time, Emperor Jing still rejoiced a little over the matter, when his hot-headedness almost led to a huge blunder. But only now did he know, as it turned out, the rumors were fake. Wherefore was Su Luo at the 8th rank? She was actually only at the 5th rank. In order to marry into the Nangong family, she actually told a lie, simply repulsive. That thread of a favorable impression towards Su Luo, in Emperor Jing's heart, was immediately obliterated completely. Of course, his favorable impression also was established on the basis that Su Luo was an expert at the 8th rank. Now, since Su Luo wasn't at the 8th rank, then that favorable impression naturally vanished like smoke in thin air. Sure enough, this face changed fast enough. Su Luo secretly felt Emperor Jing was amusing in her heart. Who is the genius Uncle Nangong speaks of? It surely isn't me, right? Thinking, originally, I continuously carried the name of good-for-nothing for more than 10 years. Su Luo seemed to completely not know what Emperor Jing was angry about, and spoke with all smiles. Emperor Jing's eyes half narrowed. Originally, based on Su Luo's status of an expert at the 8th rank, he still wanted to persuade her with kind words, and urge her to return to Su Manor. But since she was now only at the 5th rank, in that case, it didn't need him, this regent, to lower himself to say it. Emperor Jing coldly said. Originally, when you were a good-for-nothing, Su Manor didn't treat you thinly, giving you food to eat and cloth to wear. After you flourish, you must not forget the Su Manor's grace. Emperor Jing's words already couldn't be called a hint. Rather, he stated it explicitly. But Su Luo pretended she was unable to make sense of what she was hearing. If Uncle Nangong feels being insulted, chased and beaten every day, eating food that was no better than pig feed, sleeping in places that are no better than a doghouse, these kind of things, like saying that Su Manor didn't treat me thinly, is really not thin. Su Luo's words were not the least bit polite. Emperor Jing completely didn't expect that this daughter of a little concubine was so clever and eloquent. This reckless, to directly retort back to him. Didn't she want to marry into the Nangong family? How dare she be this arrogant and impudent? Impudent, Su Luo, is this how you should speak towards Father Emperor? Emperor Jing hadn't berated her yet before the Crown Prince already spoke. The corner of Su Luo's mouth raised in a taunting smile. She still hadn't spoken when Nangong Luoyun lazily pulled Su Luo up. He showed a demonic smile towards Emperor Jing. This is your purpose today? If Emperor Jing dared to say it was, then without a doubt, Nangong Luoyun would turn around and leave. It couldn't help but be said that Emperor Jing still understood Nangong Luoyun really well. But with regards to Nangong Luoyun, who disdained even quarreling with him, Emperor Jing's heart that was as fragile as glass couldn't help but sustain some injuries. He resentfully glared at Su Luo. If not for that blood in her body that made people's hearts boil, would he, a magnificent regent, need to accept a compromise like this? Sit and let's have a proper talk. Emperor Jing could only open his mouth to say. After persuading the person to stay, Emperor Jing's gaze once again turned to Su Luo. Do you want to marry Luoyun or not? Su Luo indifferently smiled and didn't dim-wittedly jump into the hole he had dug. So what if I want to? So what if I don't want to? Chapter 1392, Deterrence of the Imperial Palace 1. If you want to marry into the imperial family, then you must do it legitimately. Emperor Jing put on an act and hardened his face. Oh, what is the legitimate way? Su Luo nestled in Nangong Liuyun's embrace, the corner of her mouth lifting into a ghost of a smile. Return to Su Manor, let Grandfather Su personally come to discuss the marriage, otherwise, the Nangong royal family absolutely won't marry in a loathsome girl of unknown origin. Emperor Jing's appearance looked strict, using righteous words to say this. Return to Su Manor? Su Luo secretly felt it was laughable in her heart. That very day, Su Zian saw calamity looming, and he didn't hesitate to expel her from Su Manor. Now, seeing her body had spirit blood, he didn't hesitate to let go of his face to force her to return to Su Manor. Simply ridiculous. Was she Su Luo, someone that if people wanted to force, then could be forced? Immediately, Su Luo laughed with hee-hee sounds, and she gazed straight at Emperor Jing. Want to make me return to Su Manor? No way. What Su Zian was planning, she could guess even with her toe. If she entered Su Manor, could she still walk out alive? That would definitely be impossible. Emperor Jing was refused by Su Luo to his face, and he immediately flew into a rage out of humiliation. What did you say? I said no way. Su Luo evoked a ridiculing smile, and cast a withering glance at Emperor Jing. Don't tell me you don't want to marry Nangong Luyan? Emperor Jing, pointing at Nangong Luyan, directly questioned in a rage. Nangong Luyan held Su Luo's hand tightly. Su Luo turned her hands over and entwined their 10 fingers together. Soon after, she faced Emperor Jing. Nangong Luyan must be mine. Such huge courage, such an arrogant tone. Emperor Jing was angered to the point of laughing by Su Luo's words. His such a perfect son, so outstandingly gifted to the extreme son. She actually dared to shamelessly say these kinds of words. You this? Emperor Jing's finger that was pointing at Su Luo trembled slightly. The veins on his forehead bulged out. Very clearly, he was severely angered by Su Luo. But at this moment, Su Luo acted as though nobody else was present to snuggle in Nangong Liuyun's arms. She unhurriedly peeled a grape and delivered it into Nangong Liuyun's mouth. Although Nangong Luyan hadn't said anything at all from beginning till end, his actions were already clear-cut on Su Luo's side. After he slowly and deliberately ate the grape, Nangong Liuyun's long and narrow phoenix eyes swept a glance over to Emperor Jing, who was angered to the point of shaking, and carelessly asked a sentence. Are you done being angry? Are you done being angry? Emperor Jing only felt his forehead had a burst of darkness. His treasured son, seeing him being angered by someone, not only didn't he move to help, instead, he even calmly asked if he was done being angry. The more Emperor Jing thought, the more depressed he became. He almost violently spit out a mouthful of old blood. You guys, the two of you guys. Unfilial son. Humph. Emperor Jing heavily flung his sleeves and turned around. If he was to see that calm and composed expression of Nangong Liuyun's again, very likely, he would be so angered to directly breathing his last. As I'm an unfilial son, then if I don't disobey your words, on the contrary, wouldn't it be more in name than in fact? While Nangong Luyan peeled an amber-colored grape to feed to Su Luo, he also carelessly spoke. Emperor Jing was angered to the point of convulsing. That nose gave a wheezing sound, like the bellows of the wind. In short, merely a sentence, and want to make my family's Luo girl return to Su Manor. Don't even think about it. Nangong Luyan freely waved his hands, and set the decree of heaven and earth with these words. But, although he knew from childhood till now that the words that Nangong Luyan said absolutely wouldn't change, but Emperor Jing still wanted to make this last struggle. Nothing to discuss. Nangong Luyan indifferently smiled. Does Father Emperor still have other matters? Emperor Jing hatefully glared at Nangong Luyan. He wanted to retort, but at this moment, a strong pressure of an expert that seemed to be there, and not there, spread out from Nangong Liuyun's whole body. Chapter 1393. Deterrence of the imperial palace, 2. This strong pressure of an expert possessing the strength of a 10th rank. The result of it coming out so frantically was extremely shocking. One could only hear the glazed roof tiles on top of the imperial study make a crashing sound. The entire palace hall seemed like a lonely boat experiencing the howling wind and torrential rain in the ocean. It shook left and swung to the right, as if it would collapse at any moment. Inside the imperial study, aside from Su Luo, everyone's complexion changed. Because this deterrence force wasn't only attacking the study, it was also attacking people. At that time, when Li Yaoxiang used his 8th rank pressured against Su Luo, he pressured Su Luo until her blood vessels burst and blood overflowed from her pores. He pressured her until it seemed as if a large mountain was pressing down on her body, pressured her until she almost kneeled on the ground. But now, Nangong Luoyan had already regained his strength at 10th rank. How astonishing was that force! In only a split second, Emperor Jing then felt an enormous pressure pressed down on his back. Emperor Jing's knees softened, and he almost directly knelt in front of Su Luo. This discovery simply made Emperor Jing so startled, as if he had seen a ghost. He was the majestic honored emperor. If it was spread out that he knelt towards Su Luo, this girl, then he might as well directly cut open his abdomen and commit suicide. An intense pride propped up Emperor Jing. He stubbornly gritted his teeth and straightened his back, not letting himself kneel down. This time, Nangong Luoyan only used 10% of his power and nothing more. Contrary to Emperor Jing, the Crown Prince and the Empress didn't have such good luck. At this moment, the Crown Prince and the Empress seemed to be knifed in a deep fryer. They heated up from head to toe in burning pain, so painful they almost suffocated in an instant. The cold sweat on their faces rolled down like a waterfall. Very quickly, a puddle of water accumulated on the ground. How could they still steadily sit on the chairs? They had already fallen on the floor long ago in pain. If they didn't have a last thread of dignity, maybe they would already be pleading and weeping bitter tears. The Crown Prince simply was unable to bear it, and with a flop sound, knelt down towards Nangong Luoyan. He was wrong. He was really wrong. Such a powerful Nangong Luoyan. He only needed to sit there casually, and the spirit aura he released was enough to kill him in a second. This kind of character, before, he was really blind and actually dared to go against him. At this moment, the Crown Prince's heart was full of deep fear and regret. The Empress's face was covered in cold sweat, and her entire person seemed to have been fished up from the water. Her aura was feeble, with a gossamer of breath, as if she could faint at any time. The her that was half lying down on the ground, half narrowed her eyes, looking at Nangong Luoyan with blurred consciousness. Why did that slut's son mature so quickly? Why must her son helplessly kneel before that slut's son? Why would it be like this? In the Empress's eyes that would never concede, clear tears tumbled down, drop by drop. In front of formidable strength, all crafty plots and machinations were merely paper tigers, with not a bit of usefulness. Emperor Jing was forced to heavily sit on the red sandalwood chair by this strong pressure. But because the power was too heavy, the pressure was still there. The heavy pressure was like a mountain range that, when it forced Emperor Jing to sit, he directly split the red sandalwood chair when he sat down. One could only hear a plop sound, and Emperor Jing's buttocks sat on the floor, completely lacking any image. Under his body was a pile of shattered red sandalwood fragments. Up. Quickly stop. The sweat on Emperor Jing's body rushed forth like broth. Panting for breath, his hands firmly grabbed Nangong Luoyan's sleeve. His eyes were full of helplessness and pain. Not far away, the palace maids and court eunuchs that were waiting on them outside had long ago dropped into a pile. Seeing these people that were in extreme pain, the corner of Nangong Luoyan's mouth perked up in a demonically charming wanton smile. He indifferently smiled. In this beautiful moment that was like a blooming lotus, the atmosphere just now that was like an indistinguishable hell suffocating people, suddenly disappeared. Chapter 1394. Deterrence of the Imperial Palace 3. Following the departure of that deterrence pressure, only then was Emperor Jing able to slowly gasp for air. He supported himself by holding onto a pillar, and shakingly stood up. The Crown Prince and the Empress were still collapsed on the ground. It was not that they didn't want to get up, rather, at this moment, the last thread of strength in their body was used up. They were weaker than even an infant. How could they get up? Emperor Jing, seeing Nangong Luyan still sitting there, calm and composed as before, a deeply complicated expression appeared in his eyes. At this moment, Nangong Luyan seemed so unfamiliar that even he, this father, didn't recognize him. At this moment, Emperor Jing seemed to recall that year when the very young Nangong Luyan caused the bitter scene of the massacre in the imperial capital. Emperor Jing smiled self-mockingly. At that time, the nearly 5 years old Nangong Luyan was already so strong. How could the him right now listen to his instructions to handle matters? He really had sat on this position of the emperor for too long a time, and was used to the ease and comfort. He couldn't even clearly see this principle. Father Emperor, the crown prince, half lying down on the ground, roared unwillingly in his heart. That kneel just now ruthlessly ripped apart his last thread of dignity, letting Nangong Luyan trample it. Now, after he had gotten his life back, the crown prince immediately became upset. Emperor Jing waved his hands and said to Nangong Luyan, "Whatever you like to do, then go do it." Emperor Jing's voice revealed an endless downheartedness. The matter just now really gave him lingering fear. It was as if he had woken up from a dream. Nangong Luyan had grown to the stage that even he had to look up to. If he was still delusionally wanting to control him, that was absolutely impossible. The corner of Nangong Luyan's mouth pulled slightly. Now you finally see it clearly? It can't be regarded as too late. Emperor Jing smiled bitterly. If it wasn't for this thunderous attack by Nangong Luyan, perhaps he would still be immersed in a dream, unable to see reality clearly. The reality was, compared to Su Luo, that loathsome girl, he, this father, wasn't even worth a fart. In fact, Emperor Jing knew, the problem lies with him. If back then he was able to protect Nangong's mother, if at that time, after Nangong's massacre in the imperial capital, he could protect the very young Nangong, now he wouldn't be like this to this father emperor either. Disdainful. Emperor Jing, thinking of this, suddenly felt as if his heart was pierced by a snow sword. It hurt to the point he was seeing stars. You guys go back. Emperor Jing waved his hands. Nangong Luyan stood up and indifferently pulled up the corner of his mouth. Leave me a place for the 4 countries' power struggle competition. Your place has always been kept for you. The other 9 people are already in place if you have time. After seeing the situation clearly, Emperor Jing's tone was unprecedentedly mild. But Nangong Luyan icily and arrogantly interrupted his words. There aren't 9 people. Emperor Jing didn't understand. There is only 8 people. Nangong Luyan lifted up Su Luo's hand, his tone not allowing any dispute. Luo will also compete. But Emperor Jing immediately frowned. Those 9 people, every one of them were all above the 6th rank. They were the secret power that the Nangong family had hidden for a long time. But wasn't Su Luo only at the 5th rank? Emperor Jing tried to reason with Nangong Luyan. This time's 4 countries' power struggle competition, everyone's strength is above the 6th rank. She is only at the 5th rank. At that time, she won't even make it through the first round. You don't need to be concerned about it. Nangong Luyan's good-looking eyebrows pursed. Emperor Jing indignantly gave a heavy snort. He knew perfectly she would lose, and to even waste a place, this son seriously was possessed. Nangong Luyan didn't give him the chance to refuse. He led Su Luo by her hand and unhurriedly left. Following their departure, the atmosphere immediately loosened. Father Emperor! The crown prince almost cried. Just now he returned from the gates of hell, and only now did he feel he was alive. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.